Met you by the county line, with your hair full of desert moon. Your hand in mine felt like a song, spinning slow in the hot night gloom. We rode past the painted signs, past the gas station hum and the dust. You said, baby, keep on driving, and I said, girl, it's just us. Golden haze on the windshield, your laughter on the air. Every mile we leave behind us feels like we were always there. Cruising under Nevada sunsets, cruising under Nevada sunsets. You and me, we don't need much, just this road and your sweet touch. Cruising under Nevada sunsets, cruising under Nevada sunsets. At the edge of that old motel, we shared a look and a soft refrain. Your dress caught the breeze from the canyon, and my heart learned your name again. The jukebox in my memory played a tune from a better time, when your eyes said forever, and your kiss said you'll be fine. Golden haze on the windshield, your laughter on the air. Every mile we leave behind us feels like we were always there. Cruising under Nevada sunset, under Nevada sunset. You and me, we don't need much, just this road and your sweet touch. Cruising under Nevada sunset, cruising under Nevada sunset. If the world turns cold tomorrow, let it chase me down the lane. I got your name in the glove box, and your love runs through my veins. When the sky goes soft and amber, and the day gives up the fight, I'll be right here beside you in that low-rider light. Cruising under Nevada.
That's right.
Sunset.
Sick groovy tune.
Cruising under Nevada sunset.
Hey.
You and me, we
Good
don't
afternoon.
need much, just this road and your sweet touch. Cruising under Nevada sunset, cruising under Nevada.
All right.
Sunset,
Good track.
cruising under Nevada sunset.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, Nevada. Then welcome back to Day 7 of W4Nevada Live's coverage of Coyote Springs versus the state of Nevada. We are just minutes away from court reconvening in Department 13 before Honorable Judge Mark Denton. Amelia Cargill remains on the witness stand, and Nevada's cross-examination is expected to continue. This morning, the state focused on the period after the May 16, 2018 letter, especially the settlement that rescinded it, the conditional map approvals, the September workshop process, the proposed regional pumping cap, and the possible paths Nevada says remained available to CSI or Coyote Springs investment. Cargill maintained that those paths did not restore a workable development. Her position is that the permits may have remained alive on paper, but the project still could not secure the water commitment and final approvals necessary to build homes. So the question carrying us into this afternoon is, did Nevada leave Coyote Springs with a real path forward or with conditions that kept the project technically alive and practically unusable? We are going to be going back into court now. Stay with us as we will return in the afternoon with a recess, clear balance update on what happens next this afternoon. This is W4Nevada Live. My name is Matthew Winterhawk, 17 counties, 1 Nevada, we the people, we the press. Thank you for tuning in today. As we resume. And put a little track on again while we wait for court to resume. It should be soon, and then I'll cut the music as soon as that happens. Thank you.
And the road keeps calling my name. Indian Springs beat it too. Goldfield dust on a slow sweet shine. Torn up a moon in the window hue. I got your hand in mine. Hawthorne shirts, yeah. Burton by the lake, Fallon to Fernley, every mile we take. Vegas to Reno, baby, road keep on singing. Vegas to Reno, baby, we keep on cruising from county to county.
It's a good track, but we're back in, so let's turn the audio back to what it needs to be. Once again, this is W4Nevada Live, our Day 7 afternoon coverage of Coyote Springs investment versus the state of Nevada $1.5 billion trial. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.
Please be seated. We're back on the record. The witness has retaken the stand and you may resume.
Brendan, can we bring back up, please? But I had this before you started. It was stage 3635, please. Ms. Cargill, before the break, we were talking about that correspondence of October 5th, 2018, attaching thereto, among other documents, the Reich framework
Yes,
on paper. If we could turn Brendan to 3635. And as I understand it, Ms. Cargill, 0007. As I understand your testimony, before we left, you indicated that CSI had hired Stetson, Mr. Reich, to assist CSI in the public workshop process generally. Is that true?
that was a part of what Stetson had been retained to do. We had retained Stetson, I believe, earlier in the year. In fact, I believe in the fall of the prior year that they had been retained, that I think I testified that Mr. Sino III had been working with him earlier in that year on some matters.
We did. I think we looked at Mr. Reich's submission to the state, I think in the March 8th time period before the opinion letter, as I refer to it, was issued, correct?
That's my recollection.
But the second portion of his scope of employment was to assist the CSI and, in fact, the state engineer and all stakeholders by proposing a framework that could be utilized in connection with attempting to manage the groundwater within the basins. Does that generally comport with your recollection?
Yes, there may have been other things that he was doing also, but yes, generally, I would agree with you.
Okay. I want to turn to that concept paper. You're familiar with this concept paper?
I read it about 2 months ago was the last time.
Did you read it when it was first issued and attached to your correspondence to the state engineer?
Yes, I did.
And did you know and understand the terms that were employed by Mr. Reich in that concept paper, at least when you first read it?
I may have.
Okay. And is it fair that this correspondence, the concept paper, was in response to the draft order?
Yes, and he may have even started it prior to, I don't remember when he started the framework. And I know that Mr. Reich has a lot more expertise, and there may be terms that he uses in it that I don't know what they mean.
And we'll talk about a couple of those terms, and if you don't understand them, say, I don't have an understanding or no foundation to respond. That's fine. But in part, did you understand this framework to assist the state engineer and other stakeholders who reviewed it with respect to how to move forward in attempting to determine or devise a groundwater management plan? In part.
In part, yes.
And as we look at this concept paper, is this one of the documents that you testified that was submitted to the state engineer but ignored or not considered?
I have a memory that, and it could be incorrect, but my recollection is that Mr. Reich presented this in part at one of the public meetings, whether it was a workshop or just a public meeting, and that he was told it was some of the other participants, the state said this wouldn't work for whatever reason. That's my memory. And perhaps when you talk to Mr. Reich, he'll correct that memory.
That's fair. I'm just looking for your best recollection. I'm going to try to slow down for your best recollection. You testified that it was submitted to the state engineer and essentially ignored. You're talking about the same letter, same concept paper, correct?
Yes, that as we step through it, he had recommended a variety of methodologies for grouping people together to talk about things and setting up various the only word I can think of right now is teams, but that's the incorrect word to be able to review and move the process suggested by the state engineer forward.
Okay. A framework.
A framework, yes.
If we can look at the first full paragraph at 1.0, it appears that it states the Nevada Division of Water Resources distributed a draft order. Does that refresh your recollection that it was response to the draft order, at least in part?
In part, I would have to, I don't recall, like I said, when he may have started working on this.
Okay. In the last, well, the sentence that begins while the draft order, can you read that sentence into the record, please?
While the draft order states that a groundwater management plan may be employed as an alternative to the limit on groundwater pumping, it fails to provide a process and schedule on how to combine groundwater management and water right administration.
Okay. Did you have some understanding as to what Mr. Reich meant or intended with respect to groundwater management plan?
No, I don't remember right now. I think he was referring back to, I think that term capitalized just like that was used in the draft order. But beyond that, no, I don't know if he had some other thought or
Okay.
not.
In the document, actually, the second paragraph, second sentence says the plan would rely on adaptive management techniques to combine improved technical understanding with administration of water rights. That was one of the terms that he used. Did you have some understanding at the time you read it the first time, and even sitting here today, having read it since, what an adaptive management technique was?
No, not with a lot of, I don't recall if he and I spoke about it at the time, and at the time I had a better memory of that. I just don't remember sitting here today.
Okay. 008, Brendan, please. And just for the record, do you recall what Mr. Reich's qualifications were?
We would need to look at his stamp and or his signature. My recollection is that he is a engineer, a licensed professional engineer, and that he is a, maybe perhaps a geologist or a hydrogeologist, or he has a couple of different certifications in that engineering, science, water resource area.
Okay. The first full paragraph, Ms. Carter, would you read in the first sentence, please?
The LWRFS is part of the larger basin and range carbonate rock aquifer that extends from the Great Salt Lake to Death Valley.
And then it goes on, if you would read the next sentence, please.
Developable groundwater resources within the LWRFS occur in both alluvial and carbonate aquifers. Surface water resources, which include springs, creeks, and rivers, are physically connected to both aquifers.
And did you have some understanding as to what he was referring to when he talked about springs, creeks, and rivers being physically connected?
Other than what it actually states there, no.
Read the next sentence in, please.
The relationship between groundwater and surface water resources has been extensively studied, but uncertainties due to complex geology and short-term or incomplete hydrologic records remain.
Okay. At least whatever his qualifications were, he recognized that there were certain uncertainties because of the complex geology and incomplete hydrologic records remain. Do you recall having discussions with him with respect to the fact that it was still uncertain at that point in time with respect to the short-term or incomplete hydrologic studies and the uncertainties that remain?
Mr. Reich and I have over the years had many conversations. I don't recall a specific conversation that I could point to right now where I said we specifically discussed that.
Okay. The last sentence I'll read to give you a moment. Based on the level of scientific uncertainty between groundwater development and surface flow in southeastern Nevada, the LWRF is a location where adaptive management techniques can be used to achieve sustainable groundwater management goals. Again, do you know what he was suggesting as it relates to how best to go forward with an adaptive management plan?
With simply reading that sentence, no, I recall that if we were to go through this page by page, I mean, that he did lay out what he was referring to point by point is my recollection.
Do you recall him describing that adaptive management technique as a learn as you go process? You ever heard those words from Mr. Reich?
I may have, I cannot recall if he said that in this framework or he has said that otherwise or not. I just don't remember sitting here right now if he's about that phrase.
Okay. And Brendan, if you would highlight the paragraph that begins diversion from the carbonate and alluvial aquifers, and Ms. Cargill, if you'd be so kind as to read that paragraph into the record.
Diversions from the carbonate and alluvial aquifers in the LWRFS are believed to affect surface flows of the Muddy River and contributing tributary spring flow. While senior decreed water rights rely on the flow of the Muddy River, the federally listed endangered Moapa dace, parenthetical Moapa, next word I'm going to spell CORIACEA, end parenthetical, is dependent on the discharge from the springs in the Muddy River Springs area, parenthetical basin 219, end parenthetical. Due to the complex geology that defines the six basin area, the temporal and spatial relationship between groundwater extractions and surface flow is poorly understood.
Okay, but this time he's been employed by CSI since sometime in, I think we said the January 2018 time period.
Somewhere in that time frame. I don't recall specifically when if it was late 2017 or early 2018 when he was first retained by CSI.
Okay, and even with that, whatever his qualifications were, at least in that time period, let's say approximately 9 or 10 months, he has reached the determination that the complex, or that the basins are complex, the geology is complex, that defines the six basin area, and that essentially the surface flow is poorly understood, even after the time period elapsed.
That is what this statement says. And I would also add about Mr. Reich is he had been doing expert and other consulting work, not for Coyote Springs, but in Nevada, and was somehow involved in, I don't remember for whom he worked, in some of the northeastern Nevada water rights related issues, but I'm sure his resume, when you have him on the stand.
As I recall, and tell me if you have a different understanding, is that he kind of held himself out as quote unquote an expert in adaptive management, at least in the California area. Would you agree with that generally, or does that comport with your recollection?
No, I didn't know that that was something that he has said about himself.
At 0009, please read that first full sentence into the record.
The following concept paper builds upon current scientific understanding, existing water rights, and the MOA to propose a framework for developing a sustainable groundwater management plan for the six basin area.
Okay. And the last sentence, last two sentences of that paragraph, if you would please read them.
Sustainable groundwater management applies these tools through adaptive management so goals can be met and undesirable effects can be avoided. The process for establishing sustainability goals, developing hydrogeologic management tools, and implementing adaptive management techniques is performed through a transparent cooperative process with interested stakeholders.
Do you have some understanding with respect to what he is proposing, not understanding the term adaptive management, but the process to include interested stakeholders?
No, short of what it says, and I don't remember if elsewhere in the framework he described or identified or referred back to however the state engineer was using that term.
Okay, but you understood at least as of this date, because you've been involved in the public workshop process, that the state engineer is encouraging stakeholders to get together and reach a consensual groundwater management plan. We went over that, I think, before the lunch break.
Is encouraging the various parties that showed up at the meeting and have been participating. Yes.
Okay. And under 2.0, the last full sentence, please, if you would read it in.
Sustainability in the sixth basin area of the LWRFS can be determined and managed through the adaptive management process.
And then in 2.1, there's this heading is adaptive management process. And then it states in the first sentence, adaptive management of natural resources is commonly referred to or defined as learning by doing without postponing action until enough is known. I said learn as you go, but he's suggesting learning by doing. Is that what you understood it to be?
That's what he's saying here. I don't know what the footnote 6 is to, and maybe it's to something that is more specific. I don't know.
Okay. At 0010, please. And read the paragraph into the record that begins the state engineer.
The state engineer recognizes the importance of adaptive management in the administration of water rights, further suggesting that it is a tool that can be, quote, employed in the appropriation, development, and use of Nevada's waters, end quote, footnote 9. As further suggested by the state engineer, adaptive management may employ mitigation to avoid conflict with existing right holders to allow the full development of the available water resources.
Okay, now again, we know that he's at least referring in part to the draft order. We agreed to that earlier?
I don't recall if Mr. Reich is drafting this framework saying that assuming the draft order is anything to do with it other than to say, here's something that we could take going forward. I don't remember right here, right now, what the relationship in his mind was. We'd have to ask Mr. Reich between the draft order and this framework.
Okay. Do you have any idea what he means when he says the state engineer recognizes the importance of adaptive management in the administration?
Not without reading the prior paragraphs. It appears as though he is quoting something from the state engineer.
And then it says, as further suggested by the state engineer, adaptive management may employ mitigation to avoid conflict with existing rights. Fair to say you don't really know what he's talking about with respect to mitigation of existing rights?
I don't know what he is referring to when he says employ mitigation without. He may have described it later in the paper or earlier in the paper.
Okay. We're gonna go to 2.1.1, please. Just highlight that first paragraph. And if you would read into the first sentence into the record.
In sustainability focused management, affected stakeholders are involved in the formation and development of sustainability goals and management objectives. Within the sixth basin area of the LWRFS, the water-related stakeholders include NDWR, United States Department of the Interior, parenthetical DOI, MBOP, SNWA, MVWD, and CSI. Other water rights holders within the region are represented by the state engineer. These stakeholders would be relied upon to identify constraints that currently exist in managing resources as well as called upon to describe the action items that are employed to meet sustainability goals.
Did you understand that that was Mr. Reich suggesting that the stakeholders involved in the lower White River flow system should offer whatever information they may have to assist the state engineer in developing a groundwater management plan?
That could be, again, Mr. Sylvester, I would just want to read the document instead of paragraph here and there.
Okay.
All together to make sure that, yes, in fact, that is what he is referring to here.
Okay. Under 2.1.2, it's called sustainability goals. The last sentence in that paragraph before the enumerated items says, for example, the LWRFS Sustainable Groundwater Plan may include goals that, one, maximize groundwater production, protect water supply to decrease water right holders, reduce or eliminate impact to federally listed species, and then protect the aquifer from the irreversible negative impacts. Isn't it that consistent with what you understand the state engineer to be doing in the context of the 1303 draft order?
I would say let's look at 1303 side by side with that to read it together.
My apologies. You do have a general understanding of interim order 1303 or the draft order 1303.
Generally, yes, Mr. Sylvester, but sitting right here, I couldn't probably even tell you two words that were side by side in that agreement.
Okay. Next page is 0011, 2.1.3. Identification of triggers, thresholds, and action items. First sentence, the groundwater sustainability plan will require stakeholders to identify a set of triggers, thresholds, and related action items. Is that consistent with what you understood the public workshop process to include?
It could.
Okay. And in the next paragraph, it begins that sentence that begins the 2006 MOU. We just read that into the record to the end of the paragraph.
The 2006 MOU may be considered a set of initial conditions for triggers and thresholds, which the adaptive management process could refine over time. The wells, flow measurement points, flow thresholds, and pumping levels described in the MOU are initial conditions that would be evaluated and expanded upon as a part of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Plan.
Did you understand him to mean that the 2006 MOU is a good starting point, that it needs to be revised if necessary over time?
That is what the paragraph says, yes.
2.1.4, the first sentence says transparency of all available data sets is fundamental in providing an inventory of available legal hydrologic, hydrogeologic, and biologic related data available to stakeholders. We talked earlier about how the public, I would say, state engineer set up a website and that all stakeholders who had an interest could publish their opinions, their science and data for everybody to review. Recall that?
Yes, I recall that we discussed the website.
Okay. Would this be consistent? That is the established website be consistent with what Mr. Reich is recommending to have a transparent process?
I'm not sure if every piece of data that all of the stakeholders or all the participants in this process were using was in fact published to that website or not, and whether or not the state engineer provided all of the data, completely all of the data that Mr. Reich is referring to here or not.
Sure, my question wasn't that broad. I'm just saying there was a public accessible website where interested stakeholders could post that information for the purpose of providing transparency to the various stakeholders and to the state engineer. Would you agree with that?
No,
Why not?
Because the only person that could post data to that website was in fact the state engineer. And I don't know if they posted everything that was provided to them. Well, wholesale. I don't know that.
I'm not, sorry to interrupt you. I'm not suggesting that they did or didn't post. I'm just saying that the established process was to provide transparency by allowing stakeholders to submit information to be publicly available, as perhaps Mr. Wright was suggesting.
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
As you and I have talked about, yes, the state engineer had the website, but the participants did not control it. Only the state engineer controlled what actually was made available.
I understand. Thank you. At 2.2, the heading is September 19th, 2018 draft order for managed pumping. And then if you would turn to next page at 0012, the second paragraph reads, although it is not the purpose of this framework document to assess the analyses or data relied upon by the state engineer in the draft order, there is a great deal of uncertainty that exists in understanding the relationship between groundwater pumping and effects on surface flow and spring discharge within the 6 basin area. That's at least the opinion of Mr. Wright at the time he provided this to the state engineer. Would you agree?
It says what it says.
The third paragraph, the last sentence that begins the state engineer's draft order, would you please read that into the record when Brendan brings it up?
The state engineer's draft order recognizes 2 important aspects of adaptive management as it relates to a groundwater sustainability plan, including both reducing uncertainty through continued analysis and implementing mitigation measures, the latter of which is analogous to an action item.
Okay. And then the next paragraph, if you'd read the first 2 full sentences in, please.
The state engineer has provided the vehicle for sustainably managing water resources in the 6 basin area, but does not provide the process or timeline for implementation. The draft order should clearly state the process of how the administration of water rights can be combined with sustainable groundwater management.
Bring it to 0013, please. Zero zero one three. The heading 3.0 Sustainable Groundwater Management Plan Implementation. If you would read that into the record, please.
The implementation of a groundwater sustainability plan for the 6 basin area of the LWRFS would include formation of both a management and technical group. The management group is intended to include managers and policymakers that can guide the development and implementation of the sustainability plan. The technical committee would be formed to respond to technical tasks and questions raised by the management group to support their decision-making process. Specific roles and responsibilities for each group are described below.
Do you recall generally that 1303, when interim order 1303 was entered, it actually had a technical group assigned?
No, I don't recall that.
At 0017, 3.3 Sustainable Groundwater Management Plan Schedule. The time frame required to develop a groundwater sustainability plan relies on participation and dedication by each stakeholder. Did you understand what he meant with respect to the requirement that essentially stakeholders participate?
No more than the sentence says.
Okay. Put 0019, Brendan, please. If you could read that entire paragraph into the record.
Which paragraph?
I'm sorry,
Mr.
under
Sylvester?
4.0 conclusions and recommendation.
I'm gonna lose my voice. The LWRFS presents a unique opportunity to combine sustainable groundwater management with the administration of water rights in order to protect existing water rights and endangered species. The adaptive management process, as integrated into a sustainable groundwater management plan, provides a way to clarify, define, and evaluate important goals and objectives for the basin, all done collaboratively through stakeholder groups. Existing information on the basin's water and biological resources, including the 2006 MOU, may serve as a starting point to identify the goals, metrics, thresholds, and data that will best serve the basin moving forward. Development of a sustainable groundwater management plan would expand understanding of basin dynamics and allow basin goals to be met with best available technical information.
I'm going to ask you to reflect on your knowledge and understanding of the chapters 533 and 534. I'm only asking, do you understand from your review of that statutory scheme that unless a critical management area has been designated by the state engineer, it doesn't have the ability to force a groundwater management plan on stakeholders?
Objection, foundation.
Sustained.
My question again, and I'll try to rephrase it. I'm only asking from your, let me lay some more foundation. You indicated earlier, as I recall, that you had done a lot of research and you taken the classes and you had reviewed the statutory code and the provisions and you had some understanding of that in response to some of council's questions in mind. And I'm just asking if you know from whatever experience you may have that the state engineer is unable to enforce a groundwater management plan without designating the area as a critical management area.
I cannot recall that specifically. I would just want to look if we want to pull the statute up. You could be right. I cannot recall with specificity if that is the case or if there is another methodology for the state engineer to be able to explore that.
Okay, that's all I was looking for. Thank you for your answer. At 0020. If you could read into the record the last full paragraph of Mr. Reich's conclusions and recommendations.
Development of technical knowledge through the formation of a sustainable groundwater management group led by the state engineer will put the burden of managing the basin on the stakeholders. Different than other monitoring, management, and mitigation, parenthetical 3M, and parenthetical plans implemented or proposed by SNWA and other parts of Nevada, the methodology proposed in this concept paper will be used to protect valid water rights holders by incorporating the administrative and technical steps. While the stakeholders would be responsible for developing technical knowledge, the state engineer participation will incorporate administrative oversight to assure the state's resources are being managed according to state statutes.
Do you have some understanding as to why Mr. Reich had suggested and recommended that it be the burden of the stakeholders to come together?
I don't know specifically other than what he has said in other parts of this framework. And I don't know specifically.
When you read it for the first time at about the time it was issued, did you have some understanding then what burden CSI as a stakeholder would have?
Other than having retained Stetson engineers, Mr. Reich, to participate and whatever came forward, I don't know that we had a specific idea that it was going to entail any particular items. Just that it would, whatever it would include, we would all figure it out together is, I think, more or less what Mr. Reich was suggesting.
And when you say we all, you mean we all being the stakeholders?
All the participants in whatever the plan process was.
It's, I think we talked about this, and briefly, you understood that many interested stakeholders submitted comments to the draft order, and those comments were published on the websites, assuming that they were all published on the websites, fair?
Yes, I would agree with that.
And
I mean,
before we left. You reviewed those, and I'm not going to ask you specifics about any one or more of them, but you reviewed them at the time they were filed or posted. Did you understand, at least looking back on it, that not everybody agreed on how best to go forward?
Yes, I think that's probably the understatement of the day, Mr. Sylvester.
Why do you say that?
Because the comments, as we talked about before lunch, ranged from, let's just say, from Coyote Springs clear through Center for Biological Diversity. Coyote Springs wanting to move forward and be able to pump water and wanting more than the 9,000 acre feet, to Center for Biological Diversity saying the amount to be pumped should be 0. So it was wildly divergent.
Okay. During those process, or the public workshop process, and in light of the fact that the opinions of the various stakeholders was wildly divergent, do you remember discussing with one or more stakeholders in an attempt to resolve the differences?
Not specific to any one or more stakeholders necessarily. I recall perhaps a meeting, I think I talked about this a little bit earlier. There was a workshop or a meeting, if was one or more, where various parties got together. I believe it was in Overton, and sat down and talked about possibly some ways of moving forward. I know that CSI spoke to a couple of other stakeholders, and my counsel was actually who was speaking to their counsel, and we were communicating.
What were you attempting to achieve, if you can recall, by having those conversations with the various stakeholders who had wildly divergent opinions?
Not all opinions were wildly divergent. I just meant from, if you take the whole spectrum,
Mhm.
from, on either end, by that's what I meant by wildly divergent. We would be hoping to achieve, I'm trying to think of a word, some cooperation among various persons to try to find folks that had our same goals, and they would be hoping to do the same thing and to talk about possibilities. And as I said, many of those conversations were either at Mr. Reich's level, meaning at the scientific level, or they were at council's level, where our council was speaking to other parties' council about, whatever their views were.
Were you taking Mr. Reich's recommendation and conclusions and therefore attempting to reach a consensual adaptive management plan or groundwater management plan line between the various stakeholders?
Emilia, was not, no. Mr. Reich spoke to a variety of people. I don't know that he ever spoke to the state engineer. I don't know that that would be a way of saying it or not, Mr. Sylvester. We'd need to talk to Mr. Reich.
I was just asking what you knew and understood. I think you said Mr. Reich was there, Mr. Robeson was there, and you were trying to, if I understood your testimony, find folks that would cooperate essentially and try to reach a resolution as to how to manage the resource. Is that fair?
Generally, yes.
And now, having read Mr. Reich's recommendations and approvals, would that role or that interaction with those those very stakeholders be consistent with his recommendation that the stakeholders should bear the burden of reaching a consensual adaptive management plan, in your view?
That was a part of why Mr. Wright proposed the framework, was for everyone to be able to take a look at this and decide if it was something that was a concept that could work, that the state engineer would adopt, and be able to put together the various groups of participants to be able to move it forward.
And that's what you and Mr. Reich and Mr. Robeson were attempting to do, flying through those various conversations that you generally described, correct?
Objection ambiguous. Foundation.
Sustained.
I'm only asking about, you've read the conclusion recommendations, and those indicated that the stakeholders should bear the burden. You thereafter said that there were divergent opinions, but that you, Mr. Reich, Mr. Robeson collectively engaged in discussions with various stakeholders to reach a consensus as to how to manage the resource, right?
More or less, I mean, that's a kind of an overarching statement of everything that was going on.
Thank you. Brenda, can I have proposed, or state's proposed exhibit 3639? Ms. Cargill, this is a document or a letter dated October 5th, 2018 to Jason King, and it's by a Richard Burley. And it is titled Preliminary Comments of Moapa Band of Paiutes Rate Draft Order Rate Lower White River Flow System. Is this one of those documents that was published on the website that you would have had access to review?
Yes,
Offer a state's proposed exhibit 3639.
No objection.
Admitted.
And can I have proposed exhibit 3637, please? This is an email from Jay Dixon, PE, to Ms. Fairbanks, copying Mr. Ritchie, dated October 5th, 2018, and it's on behalf of NCA 1 and 2. Do you know what NCA 1 and 2 refers to?
I think it's Nevada Code Generation Associates 1 and 2, but we'd need to look at Mr. Dixon's letter, and hopefully he actually defines it to make sure that I'm correct. 20002, Brendan, please. It appears you are correct. It's overview Nevada Code Generation Associates number 1 and 2. Do you know what it does, or that those entities do? I have without reading it and verifying, I believe that Nevada Cogeneration operates a power plant in the Apex area.
Okay.
But I could be off on that a little bit.
And when you say in the area, do you know in which particular basin, by any chance?
I think, and it's a guess, that it's the Garnett Basin.
Another document that you had reviewed from, that document having been posted on the website?
Presuming it was posted on the website, yes, I would have downloaded and read it.
Okay, I offer proposed 3637.
With the witness's testimony about it being downloaded to the website, I don't have any objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Okay. Can I have proposed exhibit 3630, Brendan?
36 what?
3630. This is correspondence of October 2nd, 2018. If we go to the signature page, it's signed by Greg Morrison of Pierce, Parsons, Bale, and Latimer. Do you know Mr. Morrison?
Yes. Not well, but I mean, I know him, meaning I know who he is.
These are comments on the draft order as well. Do you recall who Mr. Morrison represented?
I believe it's Moapa Valley Water District. I don't think it's Muddy Valley Irrigation Company. I think it's Moapa Valley Water District.
Okay. Would this have been another one of the documents posted and you reviewed at or about the time that it was submitted, to your knowledge?
Yes, again, presuming it was in fact posted, yes, I would have read it.
Offer proposed 3630, please.
Your Honor, with the witness's testimony about it being posted to the website, I have no objection.
Admitted.
And proposed exhibit 3633. This is a email from the signature page, Robert Coyote, that's at 0005. Do you know who Mr. Coyote is?
He used to have a position within the state engineer's office.
Okay. Again, is this one of the documents to your knowledge would have been posted and reviewed by you at about the time it was posted?
Yes, had it been posted, yes, I would have downloaded and read it.
Offer proposed 3633.
Same comment, Your Honor, with the witness's testimony that this had been posted to the website. I have no objection.
By the way, excuse me. Do you recall ever reading this particular document?
I don't recall specifically what document I read. I recall that Mr. Coyote participated on behalf of, I was just trying to read it to remember who his client was or if he was doing it on his own. I recall generally that he participated. I don't remember reading any of these letters specifically word for word. That's my only qualification. If they were posted, I would have downloaded and I would have read them at the time.
That was my question. It was a better question. Your answer was better than my question. I'm not suggesting you have a recall today of those. I'm just suggesting that if it was posted, you would have downloaded and read it at about the time that it was either dated or posted. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Proposed exhibit 3641, please. And this is a letter on the letterhead of the Center for Biological Diversity of October 5th, 2018. And then the regarding portion is informal comments on lower White River Flow System draft order. And it appears to be signed by Patrick Donnelly, Nevada State Director for the Center of Biological Diversity. And I think that that's one of the folks that took a hard line and said no water could have been taken out of the system.
That's my recollection, yes.
With the understanding that this was posted, I would proffer state's exhibit, proposed exhibit 3641.
With that understanding, Your Honor, no objection.
Admitted.
By the way, I know that you don't.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Mark has lozenges. If you like.
I do
Yeah,
too. It's just awkward while I'm sitting here to do that. So.
You have mine.
I'm all right. I have my own.
Okay.
I'm not giving mine back. Okay, so I know that you don't have a lot of recall about some of the other ones, but do you recall specifically reading this one and reaching the conclusion that they're not gonna consent to all or any portion of the water being appropriated?
Mr. Sylvester, that's taxing my memory to say that I remember this specific letter. I remember the generalities and I remember most of the persons who submitted letters in the sense that, as I said, Mr. Coyote or Mr. Donnelly submitted letters, but I don't have a perfect recollection of what each and every letter said.
Yeah, thank you. Do you recall a lawsuit filed by the Center for Biological Diversity?
That's a loaded question, Mr. Sylvester.
As it relates to the lower White River flow system and the proposed appropriation of water,
No, I actually don't.
I'm not suggesting that you should. If I may go to 3642, proposed 3642. And this is on the letterhead of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Do you know that they held water rights in Basin 219?
Yes,
Do you recall them being one of the most senior water right holders in Basin 219?
that sounds about right. I'd want to look back at that chart again, but I do recall that they had rights, the church had rights very high up on that chart.
In fact, at one point CSI tried to buy some of those rights, right?
Yes, the church approached us.
That was roughly my best recollection in 2021 time period. Does that comport with yours?
I cannot remember what year it was, Mr. Sylvester.
To your knowledge, did CSI ever attempt to purchase any other senior rights? And when I say senior, I mean in context of the priority table we looked at.
I don't think so. If there was, I don't recall that, but I recall the discussions with the church.
But as I understood your testimony earlier, you indicated that on that priority chart we looked at, you thought and opined, my word, that there were a lot of permit holders or many permit holders that had permitted water, but hadn't been using it yet, hadn't put it to beneficial use. Was that your testimony?
More or less. I mean, there's other ways that a person might have abandoned their water or may not be using their water, or perhaps hadn't pumped their water in a period of years.
Or weren't using as much water as they were permitted?
Or could be using more water than they were permitted.
And I think your testimony on direct examination is that CSI was somewhat critical of the state engineer because it hadn't, as of that date, in 2026, done what you suggest he should do, which is go forward and attempt to determine whether there's permit holders that weren't using their water, correct?
You just said in 2026.
That's when you talked to Mr. Hudson about that phase 2 commencement in February 2026.
Okay, all right. Can you rephrase or restate your question rather? Because I started off thinking 2018 and then you said 2026 and I got lost.
I'm nimble like that, so I appreciate the clarification. I'll be happy to reorient you if I move. 2026 was the commencement of the second phase when Mr. Bolton, and you talked about on direct examination, stood up and gave a presentation. I think you may have looked at the PowerPoint presentation, right?
Yes, I agree.
As I recall your testimony, you were critical of the state engineer because in the time that had elapsed, he hadn't done what you suggested he should do, which is, among other things, take a look at whether the folks in a higher priority were using their water. Is that part of it?
I can't remember if when Ms. Winston got up on our behalf, that was something she said. I do know that Ms. Harrison on behalf of Georgia Pacific Republic specifically stated that. And it's possible that Ms. Winston agreed with Ms. Harrison because we would have agreed with that comment by Ms. Harrison. I don't think it was our original thought. I think that Ms. Harrison first got up and said that.
Okay, but you agreed with it, right? And it's fair to say that you agreed with whether it was Ms. Harrison and Ms. Winston, that the state engineer should do those things, see if other water right holders were using their water, whether their rights could be canceled or forfeited. Did you recall that you were in support of that concept?
Yes.
Because conceptually, if somebody ahead of you in the priority list wasn't using their water and they were canceled or forfeited, you would ostensibly or theoretically move up the priority list.
Yes, based on that particular priority list that we already looked at.
My question is really just this. Did you, CSI, ever make an attempt to investigate whether any of the folks that were earlier in priority weren't using their water or could be subject to cancellation or forfeiture?
I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Our council retained Stetson And Stetson did something that's a privileged report. It was a consulting report, and I don't believe it was produced. I think it's on the privilege log.
Okay, and I don't want, if it's privileged, I don't want to know it. I just want to know if you understood generally CSI was furthering or attempted to determine whether or not there were rights available that had a senior priority, could be canceled, purchased, forfeited.
In very large, broad brush strokes, I do believe that our council did have something like that worked on. I don't know that it was ever finalized.
But you, I mean, Cargill as COO and general counsel don't have a recollection of actually somebody engaging in that process on behalf of CSI, like a specific recollection.
Engaging in which part of the
Sure.
process?
The process of looking at those that are earlier in time on that priority list to see if you could acquire, or you could suggest a forfeiture or a cancellation so you could move up the priority.
As I said a minute ago, my recollection is that Mr. Robison engaged Stetson, and that Mr. Reich did some analysis, or had someone within Stetson Engineers do a similar analysis, and that's what I recall about it.
Okay. To your knowledge, does that possibility still exist today? When I say the possibility, I mean the possibility of approaching senior permit holders to acquire or to determine their use, whether they could be canceled or forfeited.
Objection, foundation, big.
I'm gonna ask you,
Sustained.
you did that analysis, hired Mr. Reich for the purpose of determining whether or not there could be an opportunity to acquire in some form or fashion a senior priority right. Is that fair?
No,
And I would just, yeah, if I may just excuse me for 1 second and just remind the witness that this is a privileged relationship and not to disclose any privileged communication or information you may have learned from counsel concerning the subject.
Sustained.
Yeah, not sure it's an objection, but I'm happy to just limit it to say, do you have some understanding that that possibility exists as I described it?
now I've forgotten. Which possibility are you asking me about?
The possibility that CSI could attempt to acquire in some form or fashion rights that have an earlier priority in the priority table.
It's hard to answer the question without starting to talk about the report.
Okay.
And I would say that if that was not the purpose of the report, as I recall.
To your knowledge, has CSI ever considered that option?
I believe we just spoke about the Church of Latter-day Saints and their approach to us about purchasing water.
Other than that potential purchase of the church's water, do you have a recollection of attempting to acquire any other rights that were senior earlier in time on the priority table?
I don't have a memory of that. No, not right now.
All right, I would offer state proposed exhibit 3642 with the same caveats Mr. Hutchins placed on the record.
No, with those caveats, no objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
May I have proposed exhibit 3632? And this is the comments of proposed Lower White River on the proposed Lower White River flow system order as presented at that September 19, 2018 meeting. Again, is this a document that you recall was posted or may have been posted on the public website?
NV Energy did participate. I don't remember if this is the specific thing that they would have posted, but I recall that NV Energy was one of the persons participating.
With the conditions as proffered by Mr. Hudson, I would offer proposed exhibit 3632.
With those conditions, Your Honor, no objection.
Admitted.
I think just one more. May I have proposed exhibit 3644? Tell me if you recognize that document.
This is a letter from Lincoln County Water District dated October 10th, 2018. And it says comments to the state engineer by Southern Nevada Water Authority and Las Vegas Valley Water District regarding administrative order on Lower White River flow system.
And this Lincoln County Water District and Bidler, as I recall, are the party that CSI acquired its Cane Springs interest. Is that correct?
CSI acquired the Cane Springs interest from Lincoln County Bidler, yes. I don't know that this letter is on behalf of the two entities. I believe it's only on behalf of Lincoln County Water District. We need to look at the signature page.
Okay, the document speaks for itself, as you say. I would, with the conditions put on the record, I would offer proposed exhibit 3644.
With those conditions, no objection, Your Honor.
So is it fair to say that at least as of the date that the draft order has been circulated and all of the comments have been posted, that the administrative process is ongoing, it hasn't yet been completed?
October of 2018,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? There were additional meetings after that. I will say, I don't know that, because I don't have perfect recall of the website. I don't know that you've shown me all of the letters that were posted to the website. You may have, I feel like there were more letters, but I could be wrong.
You could be right. I'm not suggesting one way or the other. The question was, though, that at that time, whether it's all of them or most of them or some of them, you understood that the administrative process was continuing, correct?
The state engineer had indicated there would be in the future additional meetings.
Hadn't been finalized. That is to say, a stakeholder management plan hadn't been completed. Is that accurate to your recollection?
I don't know if I ever saw anything that was called that.
So the answer is yes, your recollection is a stakeholder groundwater management plan hadn't been completed.
That would be a part of my answer.
Okay. Now, at the time, in the October time period, the lawsuit or the action that Coyote Springs had filed against the Las Vegas Valley Water District was still pending. Do you recall that generally?
No.
Okay. Brittany, can I have proposed exhibit 3645? This is a stipulation in order for stay of case and to vacate hearing scheduled for October 15th, 2018. Have you seen that document before? Just take a moment to review it.
It generally looks familiar.
Okay. You see the caption? It's Coyote Springs and then Las Vegas Valley Water District.
Yes, I do. It's a document filed by Mr. Santoro and others.
And it's entered by the court on October 15th, 2018.
I see that.
Okay, I would offer proposed exhibit 3645.
Your Honor, I have no objection to it being used as a reference to the corpus of the court's record, but not for substantive evidence. With that objection, or excuse me, with that condition, I have no objection.
Submitted as such.
At page 4 of that document, at 0004, it is signed by Mr. Robeson, Mr. Van Zant, and then your name appears on it as well as caption counsel. And we talked about that your name was on the complaint as well. Do you recall that generally?
Yes, I don't think Mr. Van Zant signed. I think only Mr. Robinson signed this. I don't think that's Mr. Robinson and Mr. Van Zant's signatures. I think it's only Mr. Robinson's.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that the other two lawyers or firms were listed beneath Mr. Robison's signature.
With the comment, I'm not a firm. I'm a general counsel for
Okay,
Coyote Springs.
go to 0002, please. And there's a number of recitals that are contained in this stipulation. And as an aside, you understand what a stipulation and order for stay of case and vacate hearings. You understand generally what that means, a stipulation,
Generally, yes.
an agreement? Agree?
Generally, yes.
Okay. The recitals, the first recital references the fact that CSI commenced the action in July of 2018. The second recital says the defendants filed a motion to dismiss. And then the third recital says the defendant filed a special motion to dismiss plaintiff's complaint pursuant to Nevada's anti-SLAPP statute called the anti-SLAPP motion on September 28th. I would like you to read into the record that recital that begins, whereas the action.
Whereas the action concerns defendants' alleged refusal to approve plaintiff's development plans for a residential and commercial development at Coyote Springs. Defendants have raised concerns that plaintiff's proposed groundwater pumping is not sustainable and will adversely impact an endangered species and senior water rights holders. However, the ultimate decision regarding the feasibility of the proposed groundwater pumping rests with the state engineer for the Nevada Division of Water Resources, parenthetical, the state engineer, and parenthetical, subject to judicial review.
Did you not understand those words when they were incorporated into the stipulation to the best of your recollection?
Mr. Sylvester, sitting right here right now, I don't remember reviewing this before it was filed. I may have, I do not recall.
Okay, but it does reference the fact that the defendant, and that's the LVVWD, which is the general manager of the GID, right?
Yes,
And the manager of the GID had concerns about the pumping, the sustainability of pumping, and that it might adversely impact an endangered species and senior water right holders. At least that's what's set forth in the recital. Is that fair?
the recital speaks for itself.
Okay. And when it says subject to judicial review, did you have some understanding as to what that meant or what it means?
No, because I don't know right now today. I mean, I generally know what subject to judicial review means. If you're speaking about a petition for judicial review on a very high level, but specific to that paragraph, I don't know what that means.
So that sentence right before that language says the ultimate decision regarding the feasibility of the proposed groundwater management pumping rests with the state engineer, subject to judicial review. So it's referring to the state engineer's determination. Would you agree with that, at least generally?
In a very general sense, I would just say the sentence speaks for itself. I didn't draft it. I don't know who drafted it.
Okay, but you understand that, and again, it's drawing on your knowledge, training, and experience with respect to the statutory provisions governing water rights, 533 and 534, that embedded within that statutory scheme is a right of due process.
Objection, calls for the conclusion, foundation.
I'm only asking you to draw on her knowledge.
Overruled her understanding.
Yes, I understand generally what you're talking about.
Right. Notice and an opportunity to be heard. That conform with your understanding of due process.
Objection. Legal conclusion, Your Honor.
No, she's a sitting lawyer.
Understanding overruled.
She's not it's not here as a constitutional lawyer on due process rights.
Consider understanding.
Yes, on a very high level.
Because we've already seen your name on a prior petition for judicial review.
And that's not why I said on a very high level, Mr. Sylvester, on a very high level, I understand that due process is a part of a petition for judicial review. I'm sure that there are many cases where people like yourself and Mr. Hutchison have argued over what due process means. On a very high level, I understand what you're asking.
Mr. Hutchison, I don't argue. If you could read the next recital into the record, please.
Whereas the state engineer recently issued a draft order, parenthetical, the draft order, end parenthetical, addressing the administration of all water rights within the Coyote Springs hydrographic basin. The state engineer will be conducting a public workshop to invite comments regarding the draft order. The draft order indicates that the approval of any final subdivision maps will be held in abeyance pending the quote conclusion of the public process to determine the total quantity of groundwater that may be developed within the LWRF system, end quote. Draft order at page 12. The draft order further states that the state engineer, quote, may review and grant approval of a subdivision or other submission if a showing of an adequate supply of water in perpetuity can be made to the state engineer's satisfaction, end quote, id.
And the next recital, please.
Whereas the action will be directly impacted by any final decision made by the state engineer relating to the draft order and any management plan for the groundwater located in the Coyote Springs hydrographic basin.
Okay. And then the next one, please.
Whereas the parties have agreed to stay the action pending a final decision by the state engineer and have agreed to vacate the hearings on the motion to dismiss and the anti-SLAP motion currently scheduled for October 15, 2018.
Okay. And so at this time, at this point in time, the state engineer has rescinded the May 16th, 2018 letter, correct?
Objection. Asked and answered previously.
That's just the timeline, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes,
And the no final decision has been made with respect to how to manage the groundwater under the proposed draft order. Is that fair?
it is only a draft order at this point.
Okay. And then if we could look at the portion below, accordingly is hereby stipulated and agreed by and between the parties through the returns of record as follows. And if you would just read in paragraph 1, please.
The action shall be stayed pending either 1, a final decision by the state engineer, or 2, further order of the court resulting from a joint stipulation to lift the stay, or a granted motion submitted by one of the parties to lift the stay.
And if we turn to 0004, if you could just read into the record the order portion, at least the first paragraph of the order portion.
It is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed that the action is hereby stayed pending either 1, a final decision by the state engineer, or 2, further order of the, I presume it's court, resulting from a joint stipulation to lift the stay, or a granted motion submitted by one of, again, it's cut off, but I think it's the parties to lift the stay.
And then do 005, if you could identify the court signature.
I don't recall who the judge was on this case.
That's Judge Denton.
Oh, okay, I did not recall that. All right, well then that would be Judge Denton's signature.
May I have state's proposed exhibit 3650? And Ms. Cargill, take a moment to look at that and tell me if you can identify it.
It appears to be a letter from Colby Pellegrino, Director of Water Resources for Southern Nevada Water Authority, dated October 23rd, 2018, addressed to Mr. Jason King, Nevada State Engineer. I'm just trying to see what, why, and the purpose. It looks as though it's something follow on to comments that were submitted earlier, based on her first sentence. The Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Las Vegas Valley Water District submitted comments on October 5th. And she goes on and talks about, I don't know what this letter is altogether about.
With the caveats as placed on the record by Mr. Hutchison, I would offer proposed exhibit 3650.
With the condition this was uploaded to the state engineer's website, as we've discussed before, I have no objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Can we use, never mind, I was going to suggest we use your laptop and access the website. Ms. Pellegrino she was the Director of Water Resources for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. And a couple things. Do you know what an intentionally created surplus is? An ICS?
On a like 1 million foot level, yes. Meaning very, very basic. That is a very complicated question that people like Ms. Pellegrino have spent an entire career learning about, Mr. Sylvester.
And they still are.
Precisely.
I'm going to give you my general definition and tell me if it comports with yours. That the Southern Nevada Water Authority is permitted to increase credits to draw water out of Lake Mead for the residents of the city of Las Vegas and surrounding areas. You understand that, at least generally?
Yes, that would align with my very, very high level understanding of it.
And part of their ICS credit program, only if you know, related to the decreed rights that they owned on the Muddy River.
It certainly could, Mr. Sylvester. I understand it at a very, very high level.
That's fine. I'll move on. I just thought you had some better or more thorough understanding. I'm not being critical. I'm just suggesting that I thought you would have had that. At 3650 is the sentence that begins in the middle of the sentence, paragraph, I should say. Our primary interest in the administration of groundwater in the lower White River flow system remain protection of senior surface water in the Muddy River. First paragraph, Brendan, I'm sorry. Our primary, there you go. Our primary interest in the administration of groundwater in the lower White River flow system, parenthetically LWRFS, remain protection of senior surface water rights on the Muddy River and compliance with the Endangered Species Act requirements to protect the endangered Moapa dace. Did you have an understanding during the same time period that that was the interest and concerns of SNWA?
Yes, as stated in Ms. Pellegrino's letter, although it states that she's writing, I mean, as both for both entities, the SNWA and the LVVWD.
Okay. Can I have the second paragraph highlighted, Brendan? If you would, Ms. Cargill, read that into the record.
Following the Order 1169 pump test, the Nevada State Engineer invited study participants to file reports addressing information obtained during the study, pump testing, impacts of the pumping, and availability of water pursuant to the pending applications held in abeyance by Order 1169. significant new data, particularly aquifer recovery data, has been collected since those reports were filed in 2013. And the fact that the recovery responses did not reach pre-test levels has implications for both regional water management and efficacy of efforts to protect the endangered Moapa dace.
In the next paragraph, it says that SNWA/LVBWD have prepared two reports in support of the comments submitted. The first entitled Assessment of Water Resource Conditions in the Lower White River Flow System. And then it sets forth the conclusions below. Did you read one or either or both, I should say, of the two reports referenced in the letter?
If they were posted, I would have downloaded them and at least gone through them on a cursory level. Again, not knowing what type, I don't recall them. And so I don't recall if they were heavy scientific papers or they were short summary statements, Mr. Sylvester. And so it would just depend, as you and I both know, I'm not a scientist.
On 0002, it talks about the second report entitled Assessment of Environmental Conditions Related to Moapa dace in the Lower White River Flow System. This report presents the status and threats to Moapa dace, including how minimum in-stream flows relate to the survival and recovery of the Moapa dace. And then if you would, Brendan, please just highlight the last full paragraph beginning taken together. And Ms. Cargill, if you would be so kind as to read that into the record.
Taken together, there is ample evidence that the total volume of permitted water rights within the LWRFS cannot be pumped long-term without impacting senior water rights and the endangered Moapa dace. The state engineer has ample justification to preserve the status quo by restricting new uses of groundwater and the approval of subdivision maps. Furthermore, these restrictions should be temporary to allow for a comprehensive evaluation of the quantity of water that can be used long-term without impacting senior water rights and the endangered Moapa dace.
That's a pretty strong statement from CSI's perspective. Wouldn't you agree?
Objection, ambiguous foundation.
May I just read it? When I'm reading out loud, I really am not absorbing very much. So let me just read it for a moment,
Lift your
please.
head when you're done.
Thank you. Okay.
Did you view that paragraph as, and did it give rise to concern that that statement and those reports could impact CSI's ability to use its water for the master plan subdivision?
It would have made us pause, although Ms. Pellegrino does comment that the restriction should be temporary. But yes, yes.
It should be temporary to allow a comprehensive evaluation of the quantity of water. Did you attend foundation? Let me give you some foundation. After the end of the public workshop process, there was that adversary proceeding or a proceeding relative to the hydrographic boundaries of the basins.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Sure. You know 1309, that order, that ruling?
I'm sorry, that's not a funny question, but it kind of is. Yes, I know 1309.
And that followed an adversarial proceeding where all parties become forward and present evidence for or against the combination, if you will, of the various basins.
Oh, you're speaking of the 1303, the 2-week hearing in Carson City.
Right.
Yes, I attended that.
Okay. And do you recall Ms. Pellegrino attending that as well?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall her testimony? As it relates to the potential available water for appropriation.
Not specifically, Mr. Sylvester. I remember, I don't remember anyone's testimony specifically.
Okay, how about generally? Did you form the impression that Ms. Pellegrino was on behalf of SNWA or SNWA suggested that there might be water available in the lower White River flow system that did not conflict with senior decree rights?
I do not recall anyone's testimony, whether it was SNWA's or I know there are transcripts of that
There are.
2-week session.
May I have proposed 3648? And this is one of the documents that was referenced in Ms. Pellegrino's correspondence that we just looked at. First would be the assessment of water resource conditions in the lower White River flow system. And do you recall, you said you had reviewed some reports or assessments. Is this one of the ones you would have reviewed to the best of your recollection?
If this is the one that was posted, I would have at least reviewed it on a surface level. I don't recall if this is a 5-page report or a 150-page report with a whole bunch of hydrographs and science data in it.
I think it's 95 pages.
Very well.
Okay, I would offer state's proposed exhibit 3648 with the conditions set forth in the record.
Can I just see the?
Yeah.
The end, Jeff. Is it just a complete report?
Yeah. Okay. And some stuff.
Yeah. All right, with the previously noted conditions, Your Honor, I don't have an objection.
And now may I have proposed exhibit 3649? This appears to be the report that was referenced in Ms. Pellegrino's correspondence. And with the same condition placed in the record, I offer proposed exhibit 3649.
And counsel, that's just the full record for the full
Yeah,
report.
you can take it.
Admitted,
With those conditions, Your Honor, no objection.
admitted.
Brenda, may I have proposed exhibit 3651? This is a letter dated October 23rd, 2018. Penned by you, correct?
It appears that way.
For the signature page, Brendan?
Yes, it is for me.
And attaches that, I believe, memorandum at page 0003. Recognize that?
It says in the top in my handwriting in the upper right-hand corner, it was attached to my 10/23/2018 letter.
And was that Mr. Reich again, to your knowledge?
Without seeing a stamp or anything else on it, I would assume it was Mr. Reich.
Okay. I would offer state's proposed exhibit 3651.
It's in.
This is the regarding portion is the October 24th, 2018 workshop conference. Is that different than just the public workshop?
Where do you see that, Mr.
And then
Sylvester?
regarding the first page, I'm sorry, Brandon, go back to the first page.
I presume that there was a workshop on October 24th, 2018. I note my letter is dated the day before. I presume I offered this letter at the workshop, but that's a bit of a guess at this moment,
Okay.
with this being the only thing I can see.
At the third full paragraph, it begins on October 5th. Brandon, will you highlight that, please? And Ms. Cargill, read that into the record.
On October 5th, 2018, Las Vegas Valley Water District, parenthetical LVVWD and parenthetical, offered you what appears to be additional data, reports, technical information, and similar material that are pertinent to your draft order of September 19, 2018. CSI respectfully requests that you accept LVVWD's offer, obtain the data, and distribute the information received from LVVWD to CSI and the other participants in the workshop process.
On the second page at 0002. Brendan, would you highlight the third paragraph beginning the agreed upon?
The agreed upon 1,880 AFY to be allocated to CSI under the 9,318 AFY curtailment figure is obviously included in your draft order as permitted amounts CSI can pump for its project, even in light of the unfair language of paragraph 5 that 1,880 AFY would be increased should your more appropriate figure of 11,400 AFY be used. Thus, as written now, the draft order would mean that subdivision maps can be approved for CSI's project up to commitment of 1,880 AFY as set forth in the draft order, making paragraph 5 superfluous. CSI, however, continues to object to the 9,318 AFY limit as being arbitrary and not being supported by substantial evidence.
As I understand your letter, you're indicating that state engineer has essentially permitted 1,880 acre feet that CSI can pump for its project. Is that what you intended to impart?
I would just defer to what I said, which means that subdivision maps can be approved for CSI's project up to commitment of 1,880 AFY.
It says as permitted amount CSI can pump. Did you understand that 1,880 was permitted amount CSI can pump for its project as set forth in your correspondence?
I suppose that is a way to read it. I would take it in light of the rest of the sentence where it describes what the piece I just read about subdivision maps to be approved, seeing as how we can't just pump water and spill it into the desert for no good purpose.
I don't disagree. I'm suggesting, just because you wrote the letter, I'm asking you, did you understand the draft order to be essentially the ability of CSI to use 1,880 acre feet for its proposed subdivision?
That we could, if that draft order were the final order. And yes, that is what it could have meant had that been the adopted order. However, without a subdivision map being signed, we can't ever use it in a home.
No, I appreciate that. Is the essentially the consent, if you will, by the state engineer that you can use 1,880 acre feet for your subdivision consistent with your position that the state engineer wanted to kill the master plan community?
I would say, yes, it remains consistent.
Fair to say, though, that in commenting on that draft order, CSI didn't want a limitation to be included in the interim order as it relates to the amount of water that could be pumped.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Sure. I think your letter indicates that number was too low. You didn't want the state engineer to approve an order that includes a limitation on the amount of water that could be pumped out of the LWRFS. Is that true?
Correct. We did not want a limitation.
Going to 0006, and this is the last page of Stetson's memorandum. And if you could just read into the record the full paragraph, please.
Which paragraph? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the last one begins definition.
All right. Definition of the relationship between groundwater movement in the 6 basin area, groundwater pumping, climate, spring flow, and surface flow will eventually be determined through continued monitoring, testing, and adaptive management by the HRT and NSE's office. In the interim period and in the interest of protecting senior decreed water rights on the Muddy River, the NSE should recognize the surface flow data at the Muddy River near Moapa. Based on the information presented in the draft order and data collected by the USGS at the Muddy River gauge, an interim limit on pumping should be 11,400 acre-feet per year based on the 2007 through 2010 and 2013 through 2017 pumping, footnote 3 records. Based on the continued increase in base flow of the Muddy River, the final pumping rate determined by the HRT and NSE's office for the 6 basin area may be higher.
So from my review of this, it suggests that Stetson is cognizant of the need to protect the interest of senior decreed right holders. Do you agree with that?
That is what I'm not going to argue that that's the words that Mr. Reich used in that paragraph.
And that the state engineer should recognize the surface flow data at the Muddy River near Moapa, right?
Was it a reference? Are you referring to as reference to the gauge?
Yes.
The USGS gauge called the Muddy River gauge.
Correct.
I agree. That's what it says.
Brendan, may I please have proposed exhibit 3652? And these are the meeting minutes for the summary of the October 23rd, 2018. I'm sorry, the public meeting that was held. You recognize that?
That is what it says in the first line. Yes.
And it has the references to Jason King, Adam Sullivan, Micheline Fairbanks, and Christy Cooper,
And John Guillory.
and John Guillory. And then if we turn to 0007, it appears that you were present as well and delivered some comments, or actually delivered written comments.
That's what it says, yes.
You recall attending that meeting?
Not specifically, but as I said before, I believe I attended all the meetings or nearly every single one.
I would offer proposed exhibit 3652.
No objection, Your Honor. Admitted.
There's 100 people in attendance. Was it usually fairly well attended, these public meetings you went to?
In particular, the early meetings were very well attended. They were also advertised, noticed, I should probably say, in the local newspapers. And many people from the local community in particular would come to hear what was being said.
Okay, back to 0001, Brendan, please. Item number 3, discussion regarding status of draft order regarding LWRFS. And if you would please just highlight that paragraph. And read that first 3 sentences into the record, please.
Thanked all of those who contributed comments, especially Coyote Springs Investments and Stephen Reich, for the white paper on a quote framework for sustainable groundwater management, end quote.
Keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said the first sentence.
First 3.
Oh, a summary of the comments were provided as well. Status of the draft order circulated at the LWRFS working group meeting was addressed. A summary of the comments received regarding the draft order were discussed, including the anticipated revisions to the draft order.
Okay. Did you understand from at least on your own perception that state engineer was considering all of the various comments, criticisms, and support lodged by the various stakeholders and attempting to fashion an interim order that would be acceptable to all or most?
Objection, foundations.
Just that's if she knew.
Overruled.
That is what they said in their minutes that they provided of what happened at the meeting.
And then I think earlier you said that the state engineer just flatly ignored Mr. Reich's framework.
That was our perception, yes.
Have you seen this where they especially called out Mr. Reich and his white paper on the framework?
I see the sentence written in these notes, Mr. Sylvester, but a part of Mr. Reich's framework included having the state engineer facilitate the implementation of a few, let's call them committees, groups, to be a part of their process. And none of those steps or anything like it, in my recollection, were implemented.
Mr. Reich wanted also to dispense of that pump cap limitation of 9318, correct?
Yes,
And that was done, right, in the final interim order? Recall?
I believe it was reduced to 8,000. So if that's what you mean by dispensed, then yes, they took it and made it worse for us.
That's your recollection.
I don't recall what the next draft said.
Brandon, would you turn to 0004, please? And I'd like you to highlight the comments that Paul Taggart made on behalf of SNWA and the Las Vegas Valley Water District. And if you would, Ms. Cargill, read in to the record the entirety of that paragraph.
LVVWD is the general manager of the Coyote Springs General Improvement District and major owner of the senior rights on the Muddy River. In the last 5 years, hydrologic evidence has come into place to cast doubt on sustainability of water supply in Coyote Spring Valley. It is their position that no new home development should occur in Coyote Spring Valley until a sustainable supply is identified. 2 reports were submitted for the NDWR's consideration. Their position is that a temporary order is supported as there is a direct impact on the springs by pumping in Coyote Spring Valley. This direct impact on pumping in the Muddy River Springs, which is also the habitat for the Muddy River dace, supports the NDWR's inclusion of the Endangered Species Act because of the civil and criminal liability provisions which attach to the endangered species and the protected habitat. However, everyone needs an opportunity to see the evidence, challenge the evidence, and harder questions need to be decided at the permanent order stage. As such, they are supportive of a temporary order, urge adoption of a process, urge that process to allow that no new homes built to allow for the process.
And that, those are statements in part by the GID's general manager.
Yes, although I'm not sure if Mr. Taggart was making those as the GID's manager or just stating that the Las Vegas Valley Water District was the manager.
LBVWD is the general manager of the Coyote Springs General Improvement District.
Yes, my distinction is I'm not sure if Mr. Taggart is saying that he is there. I don't think he was saying he was there on behalf of the GID. I think he was identifying just what it says in the left-hand column, that he was there on behalf of Southern Nevada Water Authority and Las Vegas Valley Water District.
If we go to 0006, and this is a comment at the bottom by Mr. Walsh, and you understood him to be general counsel for LBVWD.
And Southern Nevada Water Authority, yes. Do you want me to read that?
Please, you're better at it.
Not the way my throat feels.
Love it.
Raised a jurisdictional question on the MOA, noting that all permits issued are in compliance with existing laws, and NDWR has the obligation to assure compliance, and that obligation gives NDWR the authority to enforce pumping limits. Suggested that the interim order not authorize subdivisions within the greater super basin until it is known that there is a sustainable water supply.
Did you recall either LBVWD or SNWA being concerned that if a subdivision was built and ultimately it was determined that there was no water available, that those homeowners may go without water?
I don't recall I don't actually recall Mr. Walsh ever commenting at a meeting, so these notes say that he did, and this is a summary supposedly of what he said. I don't happen to recall anything more than what I just read, Mr. Sylvester.
Okay, in the span of time, when we're talking about from 2015, when it took over through 2020, do you ever recall LVVWD as the general manager of the GID or SNWA being concerned that if a subdivision was built and there was a conflict with the decreed rights, those homeowners may go without water?
Perhaps generally, yes, they could have conveyed that.
Okay.
But the same would then apply to anyone else on that list, junior to us, who's using their water for homes as well.
I don't disagree. I think it applies equally, don't you?
It should.
Was it Moapa? Which entity or junior permit holder was pumping water for homes? Do you recall?
There may be others, but Moapa Valley Water District pumps water out of the lower White River flow system for homes that are within their service area, and their service area, for the most part, as I understand it, is outside of the lower White River flow system.
Did you, to your knowledge, did they buy some or all of the church's water interests?
Much past the that only happened recently and they don't have, as I recall, we'd have to look at the state engineer records. I don't believe they're the title holder to that water yet. And that they have pending change applications because they have to move the water from the alluvial, because the church's waters are alluvial, and they're moving it or attempting to move it to their carbonate wells at Arrow Canyon.
Right, but they were junior to CSI and they acquired senior rights.
I don't believe they own those senior rights yet. I think the Las Vegas Valley Water District owns them until such time that, because LVVWD, my memory is, I could be a little off on this, that Las Vegas Valley Water District actually bought those and is loaning or granting the money to Moapa Valley. I don't recall the exact specifics on that. And that just happened within the past 18 months, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I have proposed exhibit 3665. And do you recognize this document?
I recognize that it's a letter from Mr. Taggart to Mr. Robison dated November 15, 2018.
Have you reviewed this document before?
Probably. I don't recall it while I'm sitting right here looking at it. I don't recall it, Mr. Sylvester.
At that time, was Mr. Robeson still your counsel?
Mr. Robison was our counsel at that time,
I
yes.
keep pronouncing it wrong, don't I?
It's Robison.
Robison. All right.
Yes.
I'd offer proposed exhibit 3665.
No objection, Your Honor.
Brandon, would you highlight the second full paragraph and Ms. Cargo, please read it into the record?
From a practical perspective, whether couched as a failure of a condition precedent, mistake, assumption of risk, breach by CSI, impossibility, futility, or otherwise, CSI has failed to provide the Coyote Springs Water Resources General Improvement District, parenthetical, the GID, and parenthetical, with a sustainable supply of water for CSI's proposed development in Coyote Spring Valley. CSI's current water rights cannot be relied on as a long-term supply for the development without impacting senior rights in the lower White River flow system, parenthetical LWRFS and parenthetical, or threatening the endangered Moapa dace. This fact either excuses performance of the obligations you now demand or prevents their arising the first place, depending on the interpretation of the contract you choose. What cannot be lost, however, is that CSI has continued to ignore this problem despite years of attempts by LVVWD to work together to find a solution to these very apparent problems, leading to the instant litigation.
This is counsel for the general manager of the GID indicating that in its view, there is not a long-term supply of water for the development without impacting senior rights. Is that how you understand the document to read?
Objection, document speaks for itself.
I asked for her understanding.
Understanding of what it says.
I don't remember. May we see the first paragraph? Is Mr. Taggart writing on behalf of the GID? I don't recall, Mr. Sylvester.
Sure.
I don't believe he's writing on behalf of the GID. I believe he's writing on behalf of Las Vegas Valley Water District.
Go ahead and read the first paragraph into the record, please.
We are in receipt of your October 19, 2018 letter, letter and parenthetical, asserting that Coyote Springs Investment LLC, parenthetical CSI and parenthetical, has quote, more than ample water to service the requirements associated with the maps that are the subject of LVVWD's August 20, 2018 letters, parenthetical, arguing the opposite conclusion and parenthetical. Your argument continues that the Las Vegas Valley Water District's parenthetical LVVWD and parenthetical duties and obligations under the 2015 amended and restated multi-party agreement, parenthetical 2015 agreement and parenthetical, are not stayed by the court's entry of a stay order in the pending litigation, and that quote LVVWD should immediately ellipses proceed with inspections and reviews now due to be performed, ellipses, as required by the 2015 agreement, end quote. Notably, your letter demands similar, if not the same, action, which is the foundation of CSI's civil case. Without regard to the court's stay order, we do not agree that the 2015 agreement compels LVVWD to take any action it has not yet taken for the reasons set forth in LVVWD's opposition to motion for a preliminary injunction, parenthetical, among others, and parenthetical.
Does that indicate to you he is responding on behalf of LVVWD?
To me, that's what it implies,
Okay.
that he's responding as Las Vegas Valley Water District, not as the GID.
Did they have another role that would have involved dealing with CSI, other than as the general manager of the GID, if you know?
Well, Las Vegas Valley Water District has a much larger role than acting as the manager of the GID. Right, they're the Las Vegas Valley Water District. My only point, Mr. Sylvester, is he does not say, I am writing on behalf of the Las Vegas Valley Water District as the manager of the GID. It does not say that. That's my only point.
On the second page, 0002. The last sentence of that paragraph reads, LVVWD agrees that with the sentiment that homes and residents should not be reliant upon a water resource that might be curtailed when the LWRFS public process concludes. And I think you had talked about, you thought that you had understood generally that was their concern, but this certainly sets it forth in writing. Agree?
It says what it says, yes.
And if I can have the second paragraph, Brendan, highlighted, and Ms. Cargill read it into the record, please.
Moreover, the draft order does not, and the state engineer cannot abdicate his responsibility to protect the most senior water rights in the system, Muddy River surface water rights. Further, the state engineer cannot permit water right uses that threaten the Moapa dace as an endangered species. Notwithstanding any allocation to CSI, permanent or otherwise, CSI cannot use such water to support residential construction in Coyote Spring Valley if it negatively impacts senior water rights or the Moapa dace. And because LVVWD's scientists agree with the state engineer's conclusions about impacts to the headwaters of the Muddy River caused by the Order 1169 pump tests in Coyote Spring Valley, it should be clear that CSI needs an alternative resource.
And then just the last two sentences of the final paragraph, please. And see if that clears it up as to whether they're acting on behalf of the GID or writing on behalf of the GID, I should say.
So that would be the whole paragraph, correct?
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to see where the two sentences are, that's all. For the reasons listed above, LVVWD LVVWD's performance under the 2015 agreement is not required, nor would such performance be in the best long-term interest of the LWRFS or the GID. LVVWD declines your request to proceed with inspections and reviews under the 2015 agreement. Nothing contained in this letter shall be construed as an admission of any kind by LVVWD or as a waiver of any right or defense on the part of LVVWD, all of which are expressly reserved.
Is that cleared up for you as to whether he's writing this on behalf of LVVWD as the general manager of the GID?
The letter speaks for itself.
I know.
It does not clear it up for me necessarily.
Let's take our afternoon recess now.
Thank you.
We're playing at 3:30.
Yes.
Thank you.
How are we doing? Sorry, we are multifaceted right now. I've got the Lyon County Commission meeting that I'm going to be doing a public comment at, so I'm also covering this. Let me get the notes up for this afternoon session from recess lunch all the way to this afternoon recess. I'll get my contemporaneous notes and stuff put out, and then we'll continue this coverage. We'll be back here, what do you say, at 3:30? I think that is what the judge said. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Please do share this. Put it out as much as you can. Share it 1,000 times because the visibility is being cut on this, and this affects every Nevadan. $1.5 billion, one of the largest water cases in the entire history of Nevada, and it's coming out of your pockets. And it's going to allow to set a precedent that a company that if they speculative land development and or project development, if they're unable to succeed at that, they want to come take it out of you. It's not right. It is exactly the state's position, has been the state's position since the 60s and 70s to regulate, curtail, and to manage these basins as we saw fit, because it's the public's water, not a guarantee for a developer or a corporation to succeed. So it is what it is. We'll continue this coverage very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day.
Cameras turned off, the campaign has died, but the work we started, it never subsided. From the desert floor to the mountain height, we're shining the torch, we're bringing the light. 17 counties under one big sky, we're watching the records, we're asking them why. Oh, W4Nevada, the people's own desk, putting the truth to the ultimate test. For the school boards, the cities, the local town hall, we're showing up, brother, we're answering the call. From the receipts to the findings, we lay it all down. Accountability in every Nevada town. If the shadows are growing and you need some sun, bring it to us. Now the healing's begun. Speak plainly, speak loud, let the truth be heard. We're keeping our promise, we're keeping our word. Remember, let the power flow. 702-381-4295. Nevada for Nevadans. We're still alive. Power back to the people. Power back to the people. Vegas shine, that's the stage. But baby, we're more than the glow. From Carson City to the back roads, we got that old state soul. Churchill ride, clock keep moving. Douglas wind through the pines. Elko sky, Esmeralda dreaming. Every mile got a line. Hear that name roll slow, like a river through the sand. One state, one home, in every county band. We're Nevada, baby. Nevada all the way. We're Nevada, baby. From the night to the day. Carson City. We're Nevada, baby. Nevada all the way. Eureka Gold and Humboldt rivers, land of hills in the sun. Lincoln dust, Lyon County calling. Mineral, we sing along. Nye County moon, Persian heartland story, got that old school flame. Washoe shake, white pine rising. Say it, baby, same sweet name. Hear that name roll slow, like And when the horns start crying, we remember every road. Not just the bright windows, but the ones that hold the light. Carson City, Churchill. Carson City.
Did you know?
Nice roast.
I feel like, Kimberly, I should get a prize.
What?
Don't you think I should get a prize? We're going so slow. Having Miss Cargill read. No prize? She's a good reader. So concise, clear, slow.
So we can.
You don't miss any words. Back to the prize thing, no? Still nothing?
When are they gonna rain?
I keep telling people that it's gonna rain. I saw it yesterday. Now it's like it's crazy. I just went out on the balcony. I could see it raining. Like
Really?
in the mountains, it's like.
Hmm.
You know the gray.
Started
You
loosening.
can see the rain. I swear. Mark my words.
Well, I did watch the credits because they're in that. It's like beginning with all, so.
Right.
Please be seated, back on the record, witness we take the stand, you may resume.
Thank you. Brenda, may I have proposed state exhibit 3646? Kirk, take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it or can identify it.
I can identify it as a letter from Mr. Robison dated October 19th, 2018 to Mr. Santoro, Mr. Pancheri, and Mr. Taggart, and Mr. Tim O'Connor.
And the regarding portion is the 2015 amended and restated multi-party agreement.
Yes, it is.
I'd offer proposed exhibit 3646.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
We were looking at Mr. Taggart's correspondence of November 15th, 2018, before the break. You recall that?
Yes,
Okay. And this precedes that letter, and it's a letter from Mr. Robison to, among others, Mr. Taggart regarding the 2015 agreement. Do you agree?
yes,
And the first paragraph of the last sentence, it states the 2015 agreement remains in full force and effect. It is a valid and binding contract, notwithstanding the entry of the order staying the litigation. And the second page of that, well, the bottom paragraph says, the math involved leads to the inescapable conclusion that even with those unreasonable numbers, CSI would have more than ample water to service the requirements associated with the maps that are the subject of LVVWD's August 20, 2018 letters. And just for reference, those were in reference to the subdivision maps that were submitted to LVVWD that they rejected. Do you recall that generally? August 20th.
I believe we looked at one of those letters this morning, yes.
And essentially, Mr. Robinson was demanding that the Las Vegas Valley Water District essentially approve those maps or certify to the state engineer that there was water available. Do you agree with that?
It appears that is what his letter is regards to. I mean, the letter speaks for itself.
Okay, thank you. May I have proposed State Exhibit 3672, please? So there's a sign-in sheet, or it looks like it's December 14th, 2018 meeting. Agree?
Yes,
And you're present now too is Mr. Wright and Clay Jensen. He's works for CSI at the time.
yes, he did.
So after the state engineer received those various comments in the November time period, there were further public hearings to discuss proposed changes or modifications to the draft interim order. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I don't remember if there was an additional draft order yet that had been distributed, or if this remained a hearing in December on the order that was distributed in September. I cannot recall right now.
Offer proposed exhibit 3672.
This is just all the sign in.
Yes, sir.
Sheet. Yeah, no objection on it.
Admitted.
And may I have proposed exhibit 3670? And this is a letter from Mr. Taggart, and it has reference to comments to the state engineer regarding proposed interim order for LWRFS. Agreed?
I don't see that it's from Mr. Taggart. I see
Yep.
that it's a letter from Taggart and Taggart. Okay,
For the signature page, printed please at 0003.
thank you. I see it was from Mr. Taggart dated December 12, 2018.
Assuming it was published to the website, I would offer proposed exhibit 3670.
With that condition, no objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Brendan, may I have state proposed exhibit 3669? This is correspondence to December 10th, 2018. These are all in advance of that December 14th public meeting. You recognize that?
Yes, I'm not sure. Oh, I guess that in tiny print says Greg Morrison up in the upper corner.
Go to the signature page, Greg.
Yeah,
Brendan,
I see it
you do? Okay.
on the signature page.
Assuming it was posted to the website, I would offer state proposed exhibit 3669.
With that condition, no objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
And attached to that letter, he has proposed additional language that might be included in a revised proposed administrative order. See that at 0003.
I see what you're describing. If you represent, if you tell me that was attached, I don't remember that he attached it, but. Okay,
And back to the first page, Brendan, just for clarification. It says in the third, excuse me, paragraph, the district has the following comments on the proposed order and respectfully submits a red line version of the proposed interim order.
I see that language.
That is what appears to be a red line version attached to that correspondence. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree that that appears to be a red line version. I just don't happen to recall it. If you're representing that it is. I have no way to dispute it.
It is, excuse me. I'm not suggesting you know that those were the red lines proposed, at least that's what's attached to, excuse me, to the left. Brendan, may I have proposed exhibit 3678? This is from the Great Basin Water Network, and it is dated December 21st, 2018. The regarding portion says proposed interim order on the lower White River flow system. It appears to be signed at 0004 by Kyle Rowrink, Executive Director of Great Basin Water Network. Do you know what Great Basin Water Network is?
Only in that it's some sort of, I don't know if it's technically a nonprofit or some organization that is supports water. I'm not really sure what they are.
With the caveat that it's been posted on the public website, I would offer state's proposed exhibit 3678.
With that condition, no objection, Your Honor.
May I propose exhibit 3677? This is correspondence dated December 21st, 2018, directed to Jason King. Comments on proposed interim order at the signature page at 3677. It appears to be signed by Patrick Donnelly, the state director. You see that?
Yes, I see that.
Okay. With the caveat that it was posted on the public website, I would offer a state proposed exhibit 3677.
With that condition, no objection, Your Honor.
Fine. May I have state's proposed exhibit 3680? And Ms. Cargill, tell me if you can identify that as being the final proposed, the final interim order of 1303. Just take a moment to review it and see if that comports with your understanding. Brandon, would you turn to 36800019, same exhibit? This is signed by Tim Wilson on May 13th, 2019.
I thought that Mr. King signed interim order 1303.
Brandon, go to 0015, please.
Your memory is correct. This is signed by Jason King, January 2019. Agreed?
Yes, I agree.
And then the second at 0018 is an addendum to the interim order, and that is signed by Mr. Wilson on May 13th, 2019.
Is that, I'm not quibbling over May in 2019. I'm not sure if that's the 13th or the 15th.
13th or 15th,
Well, it's one or the other, I believe.
is their point. Okay. And do you know, you've read this before, this interim order and the addendum, have you not?
I have.
And in this interim order, we can see at 0003, there was a recital that says the third recital, prior to the order 1169 aquifer test, there was significant concerns that pumping 8,050 acre feet from the Coyote Springs Valley as part of the aquifer test would adversely impact the water resources. Did I read that correctly?
Yes. That's not all that the whereas clause states, but you read the part you read correctly.
Okay. Do you recognize, Ms. Cargill, I want you to take a moment to review it, that there is no pump cap limitation included in the revised order or the final interim order?
What part do you want me to review?
I want you to go through the document and tell me when you need to advance it, and tell me if you see that there is a pump cap limitation imposed in the interim order.
May I have the next page, please? May I have the next page, please? Next page, please. 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 I would agree, Mr. Sylvester, that in the 15 pages of the order, there is not a pump cap, although there is a moratorium. There is a statement that no applications will be processed, and there is a moratorium on any development or processing of plans, maps, etc.
Right. Earlier you said that the final order made it worse for CSI because it reduced the pump cap to 8,000. Are we just mistaken?
I was conflating perhaps the order that came following this, but it didn't change the fact that Coyote Springs under this order 1303 still could not, the state engineer still refused to sign a map despite Coyote Springs submitting the report from Stetson Engineers that showed sustainable, whatever the term request was. Stetson performed an analysis under the metrics identified in this 1303.
So it actually made it not worse, but as only as it relates to the cap limitation, it actually made it better for CSI.
Objection foundation.
She can state her understanding.
I don't see how it made it better, Mr. Sylvester.
I agree, and I don't want to quarrel with you. I'm just saying you testified that it made it worse because it lowered the pump cap limitation, but the actual order entered doesn't have a limitation, which would, in my view, consistent with the testimony, make it better. Would you agree with that?
Objection asked and answered. Argumentative.
Sustained.
But that's what you wanted. When I say you wanted, CSI wanted, and Mr. Wright wanted, was not to have a pump cap limitation in the order. Agreed? In part.
In part, yes, CSI wanted to be able to proceed with have its map signed so it could proceed to move forward and build and develop.
Okay, and then in the, to your point, there was a concern by CSI articulated that the language included in the draft interim order required showing the perpetuity. Right? For the life of the subdivision, or forever, as you said on direct.
Yes, that was the prior draft.
And CSI objected to that language, right?
Yes, we did.
And we can see at 0014 that the language of perpetuity was removed. Would you agree with that? Once we get there? Just look at 5B, please.
Yes, if a showing of an adequate and sustainable supply of water to meet the anticipated life of the subdivision, other construction or development can be made to the state engineer's satisfaction.
And I just want you to reflect on your knowledge, if you have any, as to this issue. That's consistent, that language with respect to the showing the sustainable water to meet the anticipated life of the subdivision is consistent with the provisions in 278.
I don't recall if it's word for word or not. I would want to look at 278 side by side to refresh my memory if you wanted me to do so.
No, only if you know.
I don't recall sitting right here how close it is in language.
Same language with respect to the moratorium, with the caveat that you could, the state engineer would review and grant approval if a shown of an adequate and sustainable supply of water to meet the anticipated life of the subdivision, other construction or development can be made to the state engineer's satisfaction.
You're reading the document, yes.
Did you understand that only if you understand, state engineer had some discretion to make that determination?
I understand what the document says, yes.
Well, I'm just asking if you understood that the state engineer had discretion to make that determination.
The state engineer may review and grant approval.
Going back to 0013. In the first, number one, Brendan, if you would highlight that sentence that begins all water. Ms. Cargill, if you could read into the record.
All water rights within the lower White River flow system will be administered based upon their respective date of priorities in relation to other rights within the regional groundwater unit.
In your view, was that inconsistent with what you understood was the prior basin by basin management of the state engineer?
Yes,
And item number 2, it discusses that reports be filed with the office of the state engineer addressing the following matters. And Brendan, if you would just highlight A through C, actually A through E, and then Ms. Cargill, if you could read those enumerated items into the record.
A, the geographic boundary of the hydrologically connected groundwater and surface water systems comprising the lower White River flow system. B, the information obtained from the Order 1169 aquifer test and subsequent to the aquifer test in Muddy River headwater spring flow as it relates to aquifer recovery since the completion of the aquifer test. C, the long-term annual quantity of groundwater that may be pumped from the lower White River flow system, including the relationships between the location of pumping on discharge to the Muddy River Springs and the capture of Muddy River flow. D, the effects of movement of water rights between alluvial wells and carbonate wells on deliveries of senior decreed rights to the Muddy River. And E, any other matter believed to be relevant to the state engineer's analysis.
And then the item number 3 indicates that those who have an interest or inclination can submit their reports, and they give a deadline of July 18th, 2019, with rebuttal reports filed June 3rd, 2019.
Yes, those dates don't really make sense.
And then item number 4, the state engineer will schedule an administrative hearing within the month of September 2019 to take comments on the submitted reports. One or more parties had requested, I think maybe even CSI, that there be an administrative hearing where the state engineer could take evidence on those issues identified in item number 2.
Is that a question or a statement?
Yes, that's a question. You agree with that?
I don't recall if CSI was one of the parties that so requested. I know that there was a 2-week hearing, as you and I discussed earlier, in October of that year.
And that hearing, when it took place, was an adversarial hearing. That is to say that you could submit experts and put on testimony, and folks could be cross-examined, and there could be rebuttal reports issued at the same time, or discussed and argued at the same time. Do you agree with that generally?
Yes, generally.
Okay. But as it relates to the purpose of 1303, would you agree that it was in part designed to determine the geographic boundaries of the connected basins.
Objection, document speaks for itself.
Just ask for her understanding, Ron.
I would just want to go back and see what,
Sure.
What
0013,
it said.
Brendan, please.
I would just defer to what sub A says, the geographic boundary of the hydrologically connected groundwater and surface water systems comprising the lower White River flow system.
And item number B, part of that administrative hearing was to determine whether or not the aquifer had recovered since the completion of the aquifer test. Is that what you understood was part of the adversary hearing that was going to be discussed?
Just as it says in that item B, yes.
And item number 3, again, I know what it says, but did you form the understanding that another portion of the adversarial hearing was to determine the relationship between the location of pumping on discharge to the Muddy River Springs and the capture of Muddy River flow?
As it says, and I also have a memory, Mr. Sylvester, that Ms. Fairbank held a meeting, I'll call it, that went through and did more specifically more specifically described some of what would be allowed to be presented and discussed at the October hearing.
Yeah. And offer state's proposed exhibit 3680.
No objection, Your Honor.
May I have state's proposed exhibit 3682? And tell me if you can identify the document, Ms. Cargill.
It is a meeting agenda for the Lower White River Flow System Working Group for a meeting to be held Wednesday, February 6, 2019 at 2 p.m. at the Overton Community Center.
And the topics are to item number 4, discussion regarding the development of a conjunctive management plan for the Lower White River flow system. A, overview of conjunctive management plans from other jurisdictions. B, discuss existing concepts for the conjunctive management of the LWRFS and process for additional concepts and proposals. And C, discuss process ideas and suggestions for the development of a Lower White River flow system conjunctive management plan and time period for the development. Do you recall attending that meeting?
I don't specifically recall attending it. As I said, I believe I attended all or nearly all. I would just, we could confirm with the sign-in sheet if you have that there. I don't recall not attending it, if that makes any sense.
Offer state's proposed exhibit 3682.
What's the date?
The date,
Date?
February 6, 2019.
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
Brendan, and state's proposed exhibit 3683. This appears to be the sign-in sheet for that meeting, and you look like you're the 4th one to sign in. Miss Cargill, do you see your signature there?
Yes, with Mr. Reich directly below my signature or sign in.
T. Greg Walsh, Kobe Pellegrino, Paul Taggart. Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
I see all sorts of folks there.
offer proposed exhibit 3683.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Now reflecting back on that meeting. We're getting closer in time to today, still far away, but do you have some recollection of discussing overview of conjunctive management plans from other jurisdictions?
I don't recall that sitting right here today.
Do you recall any of those topics from 3682 being discussed at that meeting?
No, some of these meetings have blurred together in my head. I mean, I recall a few meetings that were there where a variety of topics were discussed, but if the topic had been as stated on the agenda, I would have been there to listen and Mr. Reich would have been participating on behalf of Coyote Springs.
You have state's proposed exhibit 3685. And this is a petition for judicial review filed on February 12th, 2019. And it's your name appears as caption counsel among others, Mr. Robinson and Mr. Van Zant. You see a reference to your name there?
I do. I had zero recollection. I am surprised to see my name there.
As COO and general counsel, do you have a recollection of reviewing and approving this petition for judicial review?
I am sure that I did review it. I don't have a memory of it. Again, during the time that Mr. Van Zant was counsel for Coyote Springs, as I described before, Ms. Pavo was primarily that she was the person who Mr. Van Zant reported to, not to me.
Have you read it since? I mean, I know I showed it to you, your deposition, but have you ever taken a close read of this petition for judicial review after it was filed and through and including today's date, to your recollection?
I reviewed it prior to my deposition, Mr. Sylvester, and I don't recall it sitting right here right now.
From your review of the document, and just your present recollection, do you recall whether or not a basis for the petition for judicial review was that it violated the historical basin by basin management?
I don't recall that. I wouldn't be surprised if that was in this document, but I don't recall that right here right now.
Would you be surprised if it wasn't?
I did not draft this document. I would have relied on Mr. Van Zant and Mr. Robinson.
Okay. What Upper State's proposed exhibit 3685?
As with the other court file documents, Your Honor, I don't have any objection to this document coming in as part of the corpus of the court's records and not the subsequent.
Admitted.
Brennan, please bring up proposed exhibit 3692. And this is appears to be an agenda for a Friday, March 22nd, 2019 meeting. Do you recognize that generally?
Yes, I do.
I would offer proposed exhibit 3692.
Give me 1 second here. No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
So from a timeline perspective, you have the objections and the comments to the various iterations of the draft interim order. You have the draft interim order, you have the PJR challenging the draft interim order, And then there continues to be these public workshops meetings. Do you agree with that timeline generally?
Generally, I mean, the dates are the dates.
Okay. In item number 3, there's a discussion of the State Engineer Order 1303. And item number 4 is discussion regarding the development of a stakeholder-driven long-term management plan. That's one of the things I think Mr. Reich had suggested, that the stakeholders bear the burden of developing a groundwater management plan or an adaptive management plan as he described it. Would you agree with that generally?
Generally, Mr. Reich's framework speaks for itself. And as I mentioned before, I believe it also identified that the state engineer should be identifying committees or groups to be pushing the process forward. And I don't believe the state engineer had done so, is my recollection.
I think I know the answer to this question, but do you recall during that meeting that you attended, a discussion about the development of a stakeholder-driven long-term management for the LWRFS?
I don't recall that that was discussed. It certainly could have been, Mr. Sylvester. I just don't have a specific memory of that meeting and that discussion right now.
Did you form the belief and understanding that during this public workshop process, the state engineer was making a good faith attempt to bring the stakeholders together to develop a groundwater management plan?
Objection, speculation, foundation.
As for her understanding as to whether or not she believed the state engineer was engaged in a good faith effort to develop a stakeholder-driven management plan.
Same objections.
Overruled.
I don't recall if the state engineer used the phrase groundwater management plan at the meeting, if that was the purpose. I don't remember what framework or proposal the state engineer may have provided at that time without seeing any other materials that the state engineer would have posted on the website or provided as a part of the agenda.
Let me ask it the other way. Do you believe at this point on the continuum that the state engineer was not engaged in a good faith effort to bring stakeholders together to reach a long-term management plan for the LWRFS?
I'm not sure that I know if the state engineer was engaged in good faith or not in good faith at this point.
I'm just asking if you had the perception one way or the other.
Objection asked and answered, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Brenda, can I have state's proposed exhibit 3695? And Ms. Cargill, this is correspondence from you dated April 29th, 2019. And it attaches to the correspondence. It looks like at 0004, I'm sorry, 0003, an agenda and notice of public hearing. At 0004, we have the Amelia Cargill public comment. And then at 0005, the Coyote Springs Water Resource District Board of Directors. And then at 006, the Coyote Springs Water Resource General Improvement District General Manager's Information Report. So going back to 0001, as I recall your prior testimony, you would attend if you could those publicly announced meetings. Is that fair?
Yes, or I would send someone to attend on my behalf.
In the first paragraph of the April 29th, 2019 correspondence, you indicated that you had attended the budget hearing on April 22nd. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. In the second full paragraph, you say, please be advised that Coyote Springs Investment LLC and Coyote Springs Nevada LLC, parent the developers of Coyote Springs, parent, object to the characterization of water availability in the report. The last sentence of that, last two sentences of that paragraph, if you would read it to the record, please.
This determination has not been made by the authority that governs use of groundwater in the state of Nevada, the Nevada State Engineer. This is subject to a review by the Nevada State Engineer when a map is presented by developers pursuant to Nevada State Engineering Ruling 1303.
Okay, so if we can turn to 006, I believe this is the characterization that you're objecting to under the financial summary operating revenues. You see where it says in the middle of the sentence, however, if you could read from however to the end, please.
However, water sourced from outside of the Coyote Spring Valley will be necessary to support the contemplated development of Coyote Springs. This will impact the completion dates of the water treatment and wastewater systems. The budget is conservative in assuming no sales or water service connections. As a result, the fiscal year 2019 to 20 budget plan projects no operating revenues.
And that statement with regard to sourcing water outside of Coyote Springs to support the contemplated development, would you agree that is a position that has been taken since as early as March of 2017?
Objection, foundation without seeing documents.
Sustained.
Ms. Carter, do you remember the March 17th, 2017 correspondence and including the initial PowerPoint presentation by LBBWD?
Yes,
And you recall the correspondence by between you and Mr. Walsh of April and then again in August of 2017?
yes, I recall we looked at that. I was thinking of the PowerPoint presentation. I recall the PowerPoint presentation in March and November of that year.
Okay. And you recall that you were concerned that they consistently maintained that water had to be sourced from outside of the Coyote Springs Valley?
I recall that I said something along the lines of that we believe their letters and their message was different than that.
But you have in your mind the those letters when I'm asking you whether that was statement in the general manager report was consistent with their prior positions. I'm happy to show you the letters again as it relates to their positions if necessary to refresh your recollection.
I think it's generally consistent with what their letters were
Thank you.
on a high level.
What offer a state's proposed exhibit 3695, please?
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Brendan, state's proposed exhibit 3709. This is a letter dated June 10th, 2019 from Micheline Fairbanks to Coyote Springs Investment LLC. Do you recognize it?
I recognize that it's a letter dated June 10th to Coyote Springs, yes.
For state's proposed exhibit 3709.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
The second full paragraph of, by the way, this is from Micheline Fairbanks, who's the deputy administrator, indicates the division has made available on its website prior rulings relating to the basins within the LWRFS annual pumpage inventories, documents from the prior public workshops, prior LWRFS working group meetings, and additional related data. All these documents may be assessed at and then it provides the address for the website. And that's the website we've been talking about as it relates to the documents being published by the state engineer, to your knowledge.
It is, that's not the correct way to get to them anymore, but yes, they're on the Division of Water Resources website.
Yeah, state's proposed exhibit 3710, please. This is an agenda for July 17th, 2019 meeting. You recognize the agenda, ma'am?
Generally, yes.
For state's proposed exhibit 3710.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted.
And item number 2 is a discussion of state engineer order 1303 report submissions. Do you recall having a meeting where the parties were permitted to discuss the various reports that have been submitted pursuant to the interim order?
I don't recall that, no. I don't know, had reports been, I don't remember the timeline and that, I think Mr. Wilson had modified that timeline. I don't recall if reports had been submitted by July 17th or not, based on Mr. Wilson's modified schedule. They may have been, Mr. Sylvester, I just don't recall.
No, I want to be accurate. If we can, we're gonna go back to state's admitted exhibit 3680 at 0019. And the first paragraph indicates the deadline to submit reports as July 3rd. In the order section, I'm sorry.
Yes, I see that.
And then the second paragraph discusses rebuttal reports.
By August 16th. Thank you.
And so returning back to state's exhibit 3710. So now we know that this is after the deadline for the initial and rebuttal reports. Can we agree on that?
Yes, I agree.
And did you attended that meeting to the best of your recollection?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
And was there some sort of a roundtable discussion to discuss the pros and cons, objections or agreements with the various reports?
It could have been that. I don't remember if that's what the discussion of the report submissions was or was not, without seeing if they posted notes of the meeting or something else to refresh my recollection. I don't recall the specific topics
Okay.
discussed.
Rennie, can I have state's proposed exhibit 3713, please? And this is a document that is at 0002. It is signed by Ms. Fairbanks on July 25th, 2019. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Going back to 001. It discusses order 1303, directing the stakeholders to file, who wish to file reports and rebuttals, and then it just outlines the same items that were reflected in the order that we looked at earlier with respect to the scope of the reports.
It appears to be the same, but I don't recall if they're word for word identical.
Okay. But it sets the hearing within the month of September 2019. You can see that at the bottom of that first full paragraph.
That is what it says, yes.
Rennie, can I have state's proposed exhibit 3700? You recognize this document? Did you move that in? 3713.
No objection to 3713, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel.
Admitted.
If you recognize the document?
It's a letter dated June 13th, signed by me. And it's to Mr. Tim Wilson, and it is in regard to a submittal pursuant to Nevada State Engineer Interim Order 1303. And then that identifies documents that I have included. And it is Mr. Reich's technical report and the Mylar of the large lot map submitted to the state engineer's office.
And that was attached to that, at least as I see the document as produced by CSI and the Bait stamps, is a attempt, I think, by CSI to satisfy the condition imposed that was set forth in 1303 to demonstrate the availability of water.
Yes, and that is what CSI states in the first paragraph, is that we did submit a report that satisfies the requirement in 1303.
The 2,000 acre feet, was that sufficient to support, in your view, the sustainable life of the subdivision?
It was the quantity of water that our engineers had determined would be able to provide the water for the large lot maps for the 8 large lots.
Is that enough to satisfy the subdivision or the reasonable life of that subdivision, in your view?
That was the purpose of the attached technical report, as the 1 to 3rd paragraph of the letter after number 2 states, the attached technical report from Stetson Engineers fully satisfies the conditions set forth in interim order 1303.
Also attached to that letter is the conditional approval signed by Mr. Savajian back in September 7th of 2018, and that is 370003. Is that correct?
May I see the next page?
Yep.
Or the signature page, rather. I apologize. That's what I meant. Okay, I see that that is the letter from Mr. Savalian. Yes.
When you reflect back on order 1303, actually, let's go to states admitted exhibit 3680 and turn to 0014. When it talked about in item number 5B, a showing of an adequate and sustainable supply of water to meet the anticipated life of the subdivision, did you understand that to mean all or a portion of the master plan community?
Whatever was being submitted. I mean, that's what it states. It's just exactly as it states. The state engineer may review and grant approval of a subdivision or other submission if a showing of an adequate and sustainable supply of water to meet the anticipated life of the subdivision, other construction or development can be made to the state engineer's satisfaction.
Now, this was submitted June 13th, 2019. And we looked at the notice of the hearing, which is going to be held in September of 2019. So you're 90 days out from that adversary proceeding. Is that generally correct in your mind?
Yes, although perhaps we'll get to it, Mr. Sylvester. I really thought that hearing had taken place in October of 2019, but September, October, whichever it was.
Okay. Ready, can I have state's proposed exhibit 3948? And this is the document that is styled the request to investigate the alleged violation. Have you seen this document before?
It depends. If this is the document submitted by Mr. Taggart, then yes, I have seen it before.
See at 0002, it's actually signed by his associate Timothy O'Connor.
I see that it's signed by Mr. O'Connor. It was submitted by Taggart and Taggart.
I'd offer state's proposed exhibit 3948.
No objection to this document, Your Honor.
And in the request to investigate it, it says when has the alleged violation occurred? And the date of occurrence is October 21st, 1919. Now, the second page of that. Let me back up. The second page of that document, Brendan, if you would highlight the first full paragraph, and then Miss Cargill, if you'd be so kind as to read it into the record.
The Muddy River is a fully decreed stream source that was subject to a final adjudication in 1920. SNWA, the filer of this notice of alleged violation, owns substantial 1920 Muddy River decree surface water rights, including over 51% of the Muddy Valley Irrigation Company shares through ownership and lease agreements. Of particular interest to SNWA are Muddy River tributary intentionally created surplus, parenthetical ICS and parenthetical credits created and managed by SNWA. ICS is a critical component of the SNWA water resource portfolio, which is relied upon to supply current and future water demands of over 2 million Nevada residents and 40 million annual visitors.
And the second full paragraph, please. If you would read it.
A culmination of geologic and hydrogeologic studies have demonstrated that groundwater pumping directly affects the flows of the Muddy River. The carbonate rocks underlying the LWRFS basins are contiguous and form a single aquifer that is the source of spring discharge, subsurface inflow to the MRSA alluvial reservoir, and perennial stream flow. Studies performed in the LWRFS have demonstrated that groundwater pumping in the LWRFS ultimately depletes Muddy River stream flows on a 1-to-1 ratio. Pumping in certain areas, such as the Muddy River Springs area, cannot occur over the long term without depleting spring and stream flows. Production from areas outside of the Muddy River Springs area will not mitigate these conflicts, only delay their inevitable reach to the Muddy River.
And the last, or the next full paragraph, please.
Groundwater production in the LWRFS has impacted spring discharges as well as the Muddy River stream flows, leading to conflicts with senior Muddy River water rights. Since 2006, Muddy River stream flow depletions have reduced the volume of SNWA's ICS by about 12,000 acre feet at a replacement cost of 2.3 million.
And so this, just temporally, I think we looked at your letter, as states 3700, dated June 13th, 2019. And now we have the notice of alleged conflict of July 2019. Is that accurate from a timeline perspective?
The dates of the documents, if that's the correct dates of the documents, yes, they speak for themselves.
And did you read this notice of alleged violation when it was filed?
I don't believe that it was published for some time. I don't believe we saw it when it was first filed. I don't recall when we first saw it. It was sometime after it was filed.
Was it before, if you can, I'm just trying to prompt your recollection if I can, before or after the scheduled adversary proceeding?
My recollection at this moment is that it was sometime after or during the adversarial proceeding that it came out that this had been filed.
We may have 3704, please. This is the, excuse me. Report of assessment of Moapa Dace. Presentation to the office of the state of Nevada. The Nevada State Engineer dated June 2019. Assuming that this document was filed on the website, I would offer proposed exhibit 3704.
With that condition, no objection, Your Honor.
Brendan states proposed exhibit 3702, please. This is a series of email communications by between you and at 3702003. Brendan, please. This is an email from you to Allison Aragon.
Yes.
Says Ms. Aragon, Micheline asked that I write to you about setting a meeting for Albert Sino and me to come to your office and meet with Tim Wilson. Is this Sino the third or Junior, if you recall?
It was Albert Sino the third.
And you say in the middle of the paragraph or sentence, I should say page, it would be our thought to have a meet and greet meeting. We are not coming to argue over litigation or litigation strategy or whether your position or our position is correct. We'd like to get to know Mr. Wilson as he is the current state engineer. And then at 0002, it appears that Ms. Aragon provided a few dates.
Yes.
And then on 0001, it appears that a meeting had been scheduled.
Yes.
I'd offer proposed exhibit 3702.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted. Can I have state's proposed exhibit 3715? Document is a stipulation in order to stay judicial proceedings pending administrative process, and that's dated August 19th, 2019. And it's a document that is on the, you can see caption counsel is Mr. Balatin.
Yes, I see Mr. Balatin's name there.
And at 0003, you will see that it's signed by Mr. Robison and your name appears as well beneath his signature, correct?
As does our counsel, Brad Harima.
Signed on the August 29th, 2019 date. Do you recall that this was an agreement to stay the petition for judicial review of the interim order 1303?
That could be what it is. I don't specifically recall right now that is in fact what it was, but date wise, it maybe.
Okay, at 0002, in the first full paragraph. In the interest of judicial economy and the fair and efficient administration of those issues relevant to this lawsuit and the related administrative proceeding, the parties agree to stay the instant judicial proceeding. That gives a case number pending the conclusion of the ongoing administrative process concerning the lower White River flow system and the state engineer's interim order, which is scheduled for a 2-week administrative hearing, September 23rd, 2019. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And it says the next paragraph, pursuant to that statutory provision set forth therein, the state engineer intends to hold a hearing. The state engineer shall render a decision not later than 240 days after the latter of the date all transcripts of the hearing become available to the state engineer. B, the date specified by the state engineer for filing any additional information, evidence, studies, or compilations requested by the state engineer. And then to your point, the hearing was scheduled to conclude October 4th, 2019. And then if you would start from in order to allow 2 weeks, that sentence you read into the record.
In order to allow 2 weeks following the conclusion of the administrative hearing for finalization of all transcripts of the hearing and submission of any post-hearing filings requested by the state engineer, the parties agree that this court's order staying all matters in this lawsuit shall last until the earlier to occur of the date the state engineer issues his final order, or June 15, 2020.
So the intent was to stay that petition for judicial review for no longer than June 15th, 2020.
That is what it says.
And as of that date, the state engineer had not issued a final order, at least as it relates to the stipulation that was submitted, correct?
It says what it says.
Okay. For state's proposed exhibit 3715, please.
No objection, Your Honor, as the corpus of the court's record for non-substantive purposes.
May I have proposed exhibit 3719, please? This is the amended notice of hearing. And if we go to the if we can orient you in time to 0006. It's signed by Micheline Fairbank, the deputy administrator, on the 26th day of August 2019. Back to the first page at 0001. It is a notice of the hearing, and do you understand this to be a pre-hearing notice about the upcoming evidentiary or adversary proceeding?
Yes, more or less, yes.
At 0002. The second paragraph that indicates, well, let me back up for a second. Under the at 0001, it indicates the initial reports that were filed by, and then it has the various interested parties that filed those reports, and that continue on to the next page at 0002. So all of those entities or stakeholders or interested parties filed reports in advance of the evidentiary or adversary proceeding. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
It says what's set forth in the notice.
that's what it says in the notice,
Okay.
yes.
And the second full paragraph, second paragraph on 0002, beginning with the words "the state engineer directed" and ending with the White River Flow System basins. If you could read that into the record, please.
The state engineer directed the participants to limit the offer of evidence and testimony to the salient conclusions, including directing the state engineer and his staff to the relevant data, evidence, and other information supporting those conclusions. The state engineer further noted that the hearing on the October 1303 reports was the first step in determining to what extent, if any, and in what manner the state engineer would address future management decisions, including policy decisions relating to the lower White River flow system basins.
Did you form the understanding following those public workshops and attending those pre-hearing conferences, or at least reading the notices, that the initial phase, if you will, was going to be to determine the hydrographic boundaries of the basin?
It is what the items listed said. I mean, I believe they were specifically laid out as to what that hearing was going to be, what purpose the hearing was for.
Okay, but as it relates to the balance of the paragraph that you read, it says state engineer further noted that the hearing on the order 1303 reports was the first step in determining to what extent, if any, and in what manner the state engineer would address future management decisions, including policy decisions relating to the lower White River flow systems. Is it fair to say, Ms. Cargill, that you knew that during the 1303 hearings, that there wasn't going to be consideration with respect to what the management decisions were going to be at that time?
The document speaks for itself.
I'm just asking for your understanding that it was essentially going to be a two-phase process. The first phase being those enumerated items that we talked about in 1303. And then the second phase would be to determine how best to make management decisions going forward.
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
That is generally speaking what that sentence says that you've read and I've read.
And was that your understanding was my question?
That is generally what it says, yes.
All right, council will adjourn now.
Yes, Ron.
Do you want to move that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Before we do, Your Honor, I would like to
3719
offer proposed exhibit 719.
No objection.
admitted, adjourned, and reconvene on Tuesday, the 11th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Your
Alrighty, well, that's the end of court for today, 4:47 p.m. We've convened, stated that we will be back at Tuesday, 9 a.m. So that means we're gone for the weekend. We'll be out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'll see you back here on Tuesday, but tomorrow, Friday, we'll have our call show here at W4Nevada Live. I'm Matthew Winterhawk. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the show, please do reach out. We are continuing this work and investigative work for the state of Nevada, and I look forward to serving each and every one of you. So thank you today to Carson, Churchill, Clark, Douglas, Elko, Esmeralda, Eureka, Humboldt, Lander, Lincoln, Lyon, Mineral, Nye, Pershing, Story, Washoe, and White Pine counties. All 17 here and accounted for. Not just 2 in a sports book, right? Because remember, we're not just Vegas, right? Have a great day.
We're not just Vegas, you know. Read the whole map, read it. Lights don't run the state, no they don't. That's a small cap, small cap. We're not just Vegas, look around. Past the neon haze, past it. 17 counties, all of them. Different lives, same place, same soil, same soil. They think Nevada starting in on the strip. That's like judging a book off the cover it get. Vegas loud, yeah, but that's just a slice. Plenty state left once you drive past the lights. There's towns where a handshake still means something. Where folks know the land and the seasons are blunting. Where work don't trend and patience is learned. Where votes still matter cause people return. We don't all gamble, we don't all party. Some folks wake early, boots, dusty coffee. Some places quiet, some places spread. Some rows long conversations with your head. The state breathe wide, not stacked in a frame. Don't shrink us down to a postcard name. We're not just Vegas, no way. No.
that service talk, surface. Real Nevada, out here. Outside the walk, outside. This land where the sky feel heavy or blue, where the silence louder than the news. Places built slow, no rush to impress, where people still show up, not just express. Some counties keep food on shelves you don't see. Some keep water managed responsibly. Some keep the lights on, roads still paved. Some keep the history from getting erased. Not every voice come with billboards and sound. Some carry weight just by sticking around. We don't move fast, cause we plan ahead. We don't burn bridges just to feel safe.